controls at this point and had therefore handed over the radio to the captain. And after the engine stabilized, he pushed the toga buttons and the aircraft started accelerating down the runway. At 42 minutes past midnight, the SATCOM system recorded that the aircraft was airborne, and it then continued to transmit the aircraft's identification codes together with all of the other normal data, and this just showed that everything was completely normal at that stage. The procedures in Kuala Lumpur was for the pilots to automatically switch over to the departure frequency after takeoff, so that's exactly what the captain pilots did.
I keep pressing
Once
the
he called up and identified himself, the departure controller told them to cancel the standard instrument departure and instead proceed direct towards a waypoint called Igari and continue the climb to flight level 180. And it's pretty common that controllers give clearances like this, especially at night when there's typically less traffic and therefore easier to give these kind of directs. The captain just read back the clearance and then selected Igari as the active waypoint in the FMC. The first officer would have then verified it, told him to execute the routing, and then selected flight level 180 in the control panel for the captain to verify, just like they would have done thousands of times before. At this stage of the flight, everything was still completely normal, and when you listen to the ATC tapes, the voice level of the captain is completely relaxed.
Oh my.
The aircraft continued its climb towards Igari, and they were eventually changed over to the next frequency, Lumpur radar on 132.6. This was going to be the controller looking after them until they reached Igari and by all boundary towards Vietnam.
70 contact operator 13269. 13269.
The captain read back this handover more or less.
Hi.
In the call sign, again sounding completely normal. When he called up the new area control, he was told that they
Evening, I think it's still good evening.
which he also read back, and only 3 minutes later, they received further clearance to climb to the requested cruise level, flight level 350. As flight 370 progressed up towards the northeast, they were still fully visible on radar for all involved ATC units. And here, it's probably a good time to start explaining a bit about radars in general. There are two different types of radar to keep in mind for this episode. Primary radar, which is also referred to as raw radar, and secondary radar. Under normal circumstances, commercial air traffic always uses both of them, but the secondary radar is what gives the majority of the information. It is depending on a small radio transmitter known as a transponder on board the aircraft, and this transponder will be identified by a 4-letter numerical code with numbers from 0 to 7. Remember, that was the code that the first officer received earlier as part of the departure clearance. Now there are two transponders on board the aircraft, and the active one will, when it's activated by pilots, send air traffic control loads of information like position, altitude, speed, and even MCP selections in some cases. The transponders also communicate with other traffic and therefore enables TCAS maneuvering, and it's these transponders that makes apps like Flight Radar 24 work, since anyone can pick up the ADS-B signals that they transmit. But the key thing to remember here is that the transponders are on board the aircraft, and without them functioning, secondary radar will not work, and neither will those websites or TCAS. And this brings us to the primary radar, which is something that has been used for a very long time now.
Jungle na
In its
naman.
essence, it works on the same idea of sending out a radio pulse and then measuring any waves that might hit a target and then bounce back to the receiver. The direction of those returning waves that are coming from will give a bearing towards the target. Obviously, this technology has become much more refined since it was first invented, making it much more complex, but you get the general idea. This type of radar can be used to see things that are not transmitting any information voluntarily, and is therefore often used by the military. But given the nature of shortwave radio signals, this type of radar has quite limited range and cannot accurately track altitude and speed very well, something that will become important soon. At 1 minute and 14 seconds past 1 in the morning, the captain of Malaysian Flight 370 called up the Lumpur area controller to advise him that they were now level at flight level 350.
Malaysian 370.
Okay, let's go.
This was acknowledged by the controller.
Already
This
shared
was
my
not a necessary
stream.
call to make by the captain.
Paano ba
It was
manood
more
ng
of a courtesy thing, but you could still hear from the sound of his voice that he was relaxed when he made his call. From the way that he was
Relaxed.
making on a stopped.
Magandang gabi sa'yo. Almost midnight na pala.
And it's from here on that I have a feeling that you can see the first indication of something slightly out of order. Now, I want to make it
Hindi naman ako
absolutely
lasing,
clear that nothing
medyo
in the
lang.
report is highlighted.
Nakainom
Whatever
lang.
happened stopped as early as here.
Lasing lang nilagay ko sa
I personally
caption.
reacted to something that was just briefly mentioned in the report. You see, about
Sorry.
7 minutes
Yung mic ko pala nasa
after the
taas.
level of like the 350, he called
Good
up
evening, good
again
evening, yan.
and reported the very same thing.
I think maglalaro ako hanggang
In the
ano,
report,
madaling
this was
araw.
highlighted as
So, yeah.
anomalous, but the experts didn't think that it was worth paying attention to, but I disagree.
Ano yun, tando ay sa hindi, ano na to, gatas na to, kasi tapos na ako minom. Ano lang, nakainom lang. Medyo lang.
Simply forgotten about it, but therefore call again just to be on the safe side. But like I said earlier, this was not
Baka maano eh,
meant to
matapon eh.
make.
Uy! Oh, di na ito, ay, hindi na yan tando, unless may magbibigay.
Maybe because we have fiddling with the radios and turn down the volume or
Send
something
Gcash
else.
para pang
And we
tando
just want
ay.
to make sure that ATC hasn't tried to call us while we were gone.
Ang asim mo tingnan sa bigo. Ha? Bakit maasim? Hindi naman masyado marami. Eh, kanina. Alam mo yan, habang nagiinom kami kanina. Wait lang, magpipick muna ako. May sasabihin ako.
So with that in mind,
May sasabihin ako, wait lang, mag-pick muna ako.
The first call and the second call, which means that something might have happened to take the captain away from the radio between those calls. The other thing that I reacted to was the tone of voice of the captain when he made that second call.
Ba't ko pinik siya ako?
Again, the experts in the report said that they couldn't detect any stress in the voice from the recording, but what I'm hearing is a clear difference in pitch between the first and the second call. In the first,
Habang nag-iinom kami kanina, nag-order kami ng Tropic. Alam niyo yung Tropic? Yung pulutan. Tropic. Eh, parang chicharon. Order kami ng isa. After like 5 or 10 minutes, may binigay ulit na isa. Nagtanong kami, uy, ba't kami miss? Ba't nabigay ka ulit? Ano lang, isang order lang na, isa lang yung in-order namin. Ganun. Sabi ng baba, on the house. Ay, nakalibre pa kami. On the house daw. Diba?
Now, this doesn't have to mean anything. I don't want to speculate in further
On the house
detail,
daw,
but
eh.
I thought it was worth to highlight given what soon after happened.
Pero sana mas maganda kung ginawang on the house yung ano, inumin, hindi yung pulutan.
Within minutes of that last call from the captain, the ACOS sent
Baka
out
na pugian. Baka nga ako lang, yun nga din ang
down to the ground station. After this, there would be
Feeling ng puta.
silence from the aircraft sample.
Sandro, nag-move on na siya.
This
Good,
detail
good for
is
her.
super important
Kasi
because it
masasaktan lang siya pag ganyan. We can still be friends. Ito.
At time
Diba, yan.
01:19
We can still be friends.
24 seconds, the
Hindi nga lang ako chat buddy talaga.
instructed Malaysian Airlines Flight
Ano
37
pangalan,
to
Dave?
contact Fuji
Kupal,
Link
babae yun.
of its
Maraming
127
tattoo dito. Maraming tattoo dito.
Malaysian 370,
Sa paa, maraming to.
20.9.
This
Natural.
happened 1 minute before the
Ako na
aircraft
to.
flew past
Wala
the
ang kill.
ground, so it was
Pogi.
still technically in Malaysian airspace, but
Wala nang
it
iba.
soon passed into Vietnam. And this is where the very last radio transmission occurred from Flight 370, with the captain simply answering,
Wala akong alam sa sinasabi mo yun.
now, for some people,
Manahimik ka dyan yun. Manood ka na lang sa mga playstyle ko.
What I heard was once again someone who was busy, so busy in fact, that he didn't complete the read back correctly. Like I mentioned before, all frequencies were given must always be read back to avoid mistakes.
Papakita ko sa iyo kung paano gumamit ng Shaco.
In any case, now things
Power spike Shaco.
very good. 5 seconds.
Ewan ko sa iyo yan. Maglalaro lang tayo ng league ngayon eh. Hot seat ka na naman.
Suddenly switched off. Now the only way to switch off only that is to turn the transponder knob in the cockpit from TA-RA to the altitude off position. A technical malfunction would have removed all signals.
Manood ka na lang yan. Huwag ka na mag-chat. Okay na yan, manood ka na lang. Tama na yan.
And as it did, the aircraft abruptly stopped following the planned route. We know this because the primary radar recorded the turn, and what it registered was that after the initial
Wala akong
right
mapag-cheese
turn,
dyan. Hot ko talaga.
the aircraft passed out a short, almost 1
Tama na yun. Kaya nga, wala kang sila. Tama na yun. Kasi kahit ito wala kang kalisa sa akin. Tama na yan yan. At least, move on na siya, di ba? Ba't ka nakalala ng tempo? Ha? Tail of Blades yan, bobo. Little tempo, tanga.
And why is that?
Hindi naman little tempo, Hello
the
Blades.
autopilot only allows certain bank angles, and this turn is so high that a much steeper bank must have been used at least partially to allow the turn in order to accomplish. The only reasonable conclusion that can be drawn from this is that someone had now started interfering with the flight's trajectory for all purpose. The timing and position of where all of this took place also
Di, sabi niya, tama ka na daw. Ako pala. Ako pala sinasabihan mo ko lang kayo. Ayop ka.
The Malaysian controller whose formally still had the responsibility had handed the aircraft over and therefore probably didn't monitor it too closely. And the new Malaysian controller would likely wait until the aircraft called him up before starting to pay much attention to it, which is also exactly what happened. Given this, it was the perfect place to initiate this maneuver if the intention was to try to avoid detection. And now you might ask, why disengage the autopilot? Why not just complete the turn? Well, just to
Why?
the north of the
Feel ko sa blue.
Thailand has something
We got free blue.
on a high-level chart shows up as two dotted parallel vertical lines. As the name suggests, the Thai military will be monitoring any traffic entering into that zone and follow it up unless it is properly identified and working transponder and follow its flight plan. By carefully avoiding that zone, whoever was now in control would also avoid any direct scrutiny from the Thai military. And given
Nakita ko ng yaso.
the aircraft is now turning, it's likely that anyone
Kunin ko na lang to.
on the radar would assume that the aircraft was just diverting, still under Malaysian control. This turn would also position the aircraft between that Thai ADI-7 and Airway Mic 765, which would avoid any opposite traffic. This shows us that whoever was now in control was likely very well versed to the airspace structure over this particular area, and that this was likely very carefully planned out. After the U-turn was finished, the aircraft continued in a semi-straight line down towards the southwest.
Support mail na naman?
Ang
na talaga mga tao ngayon.
The track showed small deviations consistent with an aircraft being flown manually and not an autopilot. Now, since these radar echoes were only captured in raw radar, it is impossible to get any reliable speed or altitude data from them. It is possible that the aircraft descended slightly during this segment, maybe to gain a higher true airspeed as it was forward flying. This still was further corroborated by the fact that a Cellcom mobile mast on the island of Man briefly detected a mobile phone signal which was later confirmed as the first officer's phone. Those type of signals generally have a very limited vertical range, maximum around 30 feet and often much lower than that. But given that atmospheric conditions have huge impact on the range, it's very hard to get those. But since turning off the mobile phone is a checklist item in most airlines, this could indicate that the first officer was trying to communicate that no call signals ever came through and the signal was only while. But what is really intriguing during this segment is another system that we have already talked about a little bit, which is the SATCOM system. You see, the SATCOM sends out regular interrogations every hour with no other information is being transmitted. And when the ground-based station tries to uplink at 8 past minutes at time 3 minutes past 2 in the morning,
Pinagsasabi mo yun, hindi ko
it will receive
maintindihan.
any acknowledgement back from the aircraft SATCOM. So, what does that
Medyo bobo dun yung Morgana.
If the ACOS system was just switched off or failed, the link would still take place. It would just communicate the fact that ACOS wasn't working. And if the system was manually lost in the cockpit, this would also be shown in that log. And because none of that happened, the most likely reason for
Mid na
loss
patay
was
din.
a power failure to the system itself. Now, this system can be powered from several different electrical buses, and for most of the aircraft's redundant power sources, So this fact has led some incredibly experienced Boeing 777 pilots, with excellent work I will be linking to in the description by the way, to believe that whoever was in charge of the aircraft after that initial turn must have manually turned off all of the sources. This can be done by deselecting both the primary and backup generators from their buses using the buttons on board at hand. Often, the aircraft would react by trying to auto-start the APU and replace those systems, so the person in charge would then put the APU switch on and then off again to stop that auto-start from happening. If that would happen, that would then trigger the ram air turbine and RAS to be activated either manually or automatically, and it would start to provide electrical power to the most critical systems like primary flight displays, navigation displays, and navigation equipment, but not the autopilot. Hydraulic movement of the flight controls would not be a problem since both engines would still work and provided hydraulics, so maneuvering the aircraft manually would still work.
Baka mamamatay pa ako dito ah.
Removing the primary power sources in this way would cause everything else except emergency lighting to go flat in the aircraft, and it's likely that this would make things very difficult for both the crew and the passengers in the back. And while we're on the subject of passengers and crew, I want to point out here that we really have no idea
Bullshit
how
naman to.
some theories have suggested that whoever was in charge might have depressurized the cabin in order to get everyone into the seats and keep them under control. This is possible to do by just opening the outdoor valves manually or still keeping the air
Mga walang mga ko yung... Sige
in
yan.
fact, the air conditioning was
Good
kept running
night.
to provide heating and make it bearable in the cockpit as it otherwise would
Ako'y
become
maglalaro pa
freezing
hanggang
cold.
madaling araw.
The passenger oxygen mask would then drop in the back, but the oxygen generators in the 777 would only last for about 22 minutes or so. But the oxygen cylinder, which is providing the cockpit with oxygen, would last up to 27 hours in case there's only one person using it. And it had, like I mentioned before, been topped up just that very morning. This means that if the cabin was kept unpressurized without descending, the passengers would become completely incapacitated once the oxygen generator stopped working. But whoever was still in the cockpit would be able to continue to operate at this time. The time of useful consciousness at 35,000 feet is about 1 minute, extending to a few minutes at 30,000 feet. And anyone subjected to those altitudes without supplemental oxygen would after that not be able to take any rational decisions and soon become unconscious. After that, if no oxygen would be provided, it would take another 20 minutes or so until death would occur. But like I said before, we don't know for a fact what happened, and we won't know more until the aircraft is found, which is why it is so important that we continue the search. Now, flying an aircraft at these altitudes manually whilst possibly wearing an oxygen mask and with only rudimentary navigation available would be quite tiring, and that's likely why the radar images are showing these small technical deviations. Anyway, at this stage, the aircraft continued to be tracked by both civilian and military Aurora radar as it continued its way around the south of Man where it started turning right through the Malacca Strait. There were temporary lapses in this radar coverage, but all in all, it painted a very clear picture of an aircraft flying in a controlled way and not in any kind of ground. So, why wasn't the aircraft intercepted or tracked more closely then? Well, this was due to a combination of factors and misunderstandings between the air traffic control units and the controllers in Malaysia at the time. When the aircraft first disappeared from radar, it took around 20 minutes before the Ocean Yield controller called up the information controller to ask about where the aircraft actually was. And this was significantly longer than the standard 5 minutes it should take for a query is sent, but like I mentioned before, this happened at an intersection between two different countries in the middle of the night, so it's likely that the controllers were just dealing with other traffic and didn't monitor the scripts too closely. When the Malaysian controller, who was the technically responsible for the flight, was made aware of the missing aircraft, he eventually contacted Malaysian Airlines to confirm that they could see the aircraft flying up to board. This meant that the air traffic controllers now started contacting their colleagues along the route that the aircraft was thought to be flying to see if they could get into contact with them. And this in turn saw the lonely famed radar echo that was traveling southwest instead. It was later found out that the Malaysian Airlines tracking software was basing the position of the aircraft on predictions when it didn't receive any real data, and that's what caused that initial confusion. Now, the military did see the aircraft turning left off the radar, but since it wasn't violating any airspace, they assumed it was just a normal air turn-back and didn't raise any further alarms or send anyone up to itself. It was only later with the help of radar playbacks that the picture of
Tang ina
MH17
na to, gising ka pang hayop ka.
after the aircraft had
Gago ka.
towards the northwest,
Dito ka na naman sa stream ko. Ang tangina mo.
The SATCOM system still had not logged on at the stage, so it would assume that the aircraft was still flying in a powered degraded state, possibly only with the Grandmaster turbine as power source. But even if that was the case, navigation was still not a problem. The Egyptian Papagoes UR was still well within the area to mean that the aircraft could use raw data navigation with fine bumpy, and the way
Bakit tangina ka?
the aircraft navigation is
Malas mo. Namatay tuloy ako, kasalanan mo to.
Bumpy was soon paused and the
Dahil sa'yo namatay ako.
radar echo continued flying up in the general direction of air road November 571 towards another waypoint for Jamaica. And it
Babs ang
soon
puta.
off the aircraft
Bobo ka.
slightly to the south of that waypoint, and Syracuse
Babawi ako. Babawian natin yung vine na yun.
radar traces from this flight completely disappeared.
Kaso nga lang,
Now, there is a
nakaka-scale na siya.
possibility that there were military radars picking up signals from this aircraft for longer than this, but given the sensitivity around showing military capability or positions of mobile radars, we haven't seen any such information come forward. So this means that from this point onwards, we're now
Parang kung sakit.
going to unknown. With that comes speculation,
Gago to ah.
hypothesis, which you all know I try to avoid from this channel. So let's instead try to stay with what we do know. In order to further track these efforts,
You're
the
dead.
investigators, scientific community, and several commercial companies had to start using
Inubos
anything
pa ng
that they
puta.
received in completely new ways. And a great example of this is the Inmarsat data. Inmarsat is, as the name suggests, a company providing satellite communication services, and it was through their satellites that the SATCOM system for the aircraft ATARS was operating. The signals these satellites were sending were never designed to track aircraft, but since were signals exchanged with MH370, those signals could be reverse engineered to provide a key singular position indicator every time that it appeared. The way this was done was basically by mimicking certain parts of the GPS system. You see, each GPS satellite is basically an extremely accurate timing device, and when a device in your phone, or in this case a Boeing 777, connects to one of them, the GPS satellite transmits a quick signal, which basically says, this is where I am, and this is the time now. That signal then travels at the speed of light, which still takes a certain amount of time to arrive to your device. That time is measured to determine how far away you are from the GPS satellite, and with the satellite's position and your distance from it, you can determine that you are somewhere along the radius.
No black shield from Morgana. Her black shield is passive.
One of
Oh,
them
di ba English?
is a circle, and where all of these circles meet, oh, that's where you are. So in the case of the Inmarsat,
Wait, defend mo,
the same
putang ina ka.
could basically also be used. Each time the aircraft
Ako palang
connects to the
putang
satellite,
bobo.
the time-based system could respond to the satellite signals was recorded. The same happened as the radio interval from the satellite checked that the plane was still connected, and each of these connections, 7 of them in total,
I
are
have
the
been
famous
killed.
handshakes that were reported about
Ang bitch
basically
ng Morgana.
Every one of those handshakes
Bobo.
would then be placed using aircraft somewhere along the circle at a specific point of time. And that process of defining the circle part is called the first
Namatay
time
din.
offset
Ganda niya magano.
But this was not the only information that the Inmarsat
Ganda
signal
mag-kiting ng
provided.
pwede.
Analysts could also pick up another value in the signal, something known as the burst frequency.
Nakakamatay yung kiting niya.
BFO gave information that would help the investigators determine how the aircraft is moving in relation to the satellite. As its name suggests, it involves studying the actual frequencies of the signal that the satellite receives and how they differ from the expected frequencies. Think of this like the way an ambulance siren can change its tone as it drives towards and then past you. When it's coming towards you, the sound waves are denser, making for a higher frequency, and after it goes past you, the sound waves move further apart, giving the full lower. This is called the Doppler effect, or Doppler shift, and primary radars actually also use this in the same way to
Sayang.
for example, the speed of an aircraft. Now, I am of course always simplifying these concepts a bit here, but in the case of MH370, since these signals between the aircraft and the satellite travel mostly vertically,
Ano, ang bobo ng ano.
frequency offset or PFO was instead used to help investigators determine whether the aircraft was climbing or descending. Now, those of you who have been paying attention will have noticed that I have said that the Saturn
Item lang talaga tayo, pwede ko naman tumano eh. Nice one.
Get any of these handshakes.
Uy, di mo kaya yan, hayop ka. Kanina ka pa namamatay.
That happened at times 25 and 27 seconds. Then, all of a sudden, the previously non-responsive tracking system of MH370 suddenly came back to life and proceeded to start sending a login request to the satellite. This would later be referred to as the first handshake. This happened almost exactly 1 hour after the aircraft had completed its turn off the Gari, and the interesting bit is that the burst frequency offset value in this first handshake was deemed unreliable due to a quite large frequency error. And what's making that so interesting then? Well, it turns out that the quartz crystals used in the Saturn radio transmitter needed to be kept at a constant temperature to avoid speed frequency oscillations. This was achieved with the help of something known as an oven-controlled crystal oscillator, which was basically a temperature controller and which needed time to warm up after the length power injection. So it is likely that it hadn't reached the correct temperature at this point in the first loading message, hence the frequency error. And this is how we know that the aircraft was likely to power down.
Ewan ko na lang talaga, ang bubungol sa akin.
Science is truly amazing. Now this first handshake also lacked a valid flight and company ID, which the aircraft
Ang random ng kasama ko.
We cannot know.
Ayaw ko na.
If the aircraft power had been manually restored at this point, but then the person mom would likely also know that the Saturn system
Ayaw ko na talaga.
up and start
Ang
sending out data.
Ayaw ko na mag-solo sa mga objectives. Hindi naman ako sinasamahan kasi.
Go into the multifunctional display and disable all communications through the communications manager page. Before the satellite communication unit, SDU, became fully operational. If this was done this way, this would also erase the flight and company manager, which is exactly what the data also showed. So you can see, even though no data was actually sent out, with a lot of ingenuity, the signals themselves can actually tell us a lot about what's likely going on. We also know, for example, that the navigation system was working because of which antenna the Saturn system was using when it started transmitting. Like I said,
Wala talaga tong ina.
amazing. So using the Inmarsat data, we know for sure that the aircraft continued to fly long enough to allow a total of 7 handshakes, where the first and last were logon requests sent by the aircraft itself. Like I explained before, these logon requests were most probably caused by power interruptions, where the last one was likely caused by the fuel starvation of one or possibly both engines after the aircraft had flown for around 7 hours and 35 minutes. That last handshake came at time 0819 Malaysian time, which corresponds quite well with the endurance of the aircraft based on the Q. Now these handshakes occurred roughly every hour since the system was sent to some other key and
Kita mo namatay yung dalawang kasama ko sa top.
activities were initiated. 2 of the handshakes were caused by ground-based satellite calls from the Malaysian Airlines Operations Center, who reached the cockpit
Ewan ko na lang talaga.
answer.
Get
Even
niya
so,
yung blue.
they
Ay,
reset
kay.
the hourly timing of the other handshakes, and that's the reason why all of these 7 handshakes were not happening in the same hourly intervals. But of course,
Ako pa mamaya ito trust ako nito eh.
since the
Tatalo kami sa
Inmarsat data was
objectives.
all coming from one satellite, the odds created by these 7 handshakes created multiple possible routes that the aircraft might have flown, and therefore an enormous potential search area. Several hugely accomplished pilots and investigators have come up with very plausible scenarios
Wait,
how the
dun.
aircraft must have been flown off in that last radar position to both align with all of those 7 handshakes and avoid detection. Almost everyone agrees that the most likely route includes a turn from the
What the?
northwesterly coast around the area of the waypoint of Nidiland onto a more southwesterly course.
Oh, Mel is also here.
In northern tip of Indonesia, close to Banda Aceh, and sometime after that, it might have chosen southern
Okay,
straight
next
down
assist.
to southern Indian Ocean. Now, I will link to some incredible
Ang
investigative
ano
work
yung herald, man?
Lely and Jean-Luc Lacan in his description of this video, which lays out a very plausible finding route. But what I really want to do now is to also look at the possibility that there actually might be more physical evidence of where this aircraft found the attack.
Yun lang, ubos
All of
kami.
the evidence that I've presented to you so far points to individual action from someone on board with expert knowledge of the aircraft, its system, and the airspace it was flying through. But a question that is nagging me
Ayoko na
is,
puta.
would someone who has obviously planned this so thoroughly to avoid detection bring the aircraft out to this point and then just turn the aircraft south and wait?
Easy rank game sa kalaban, ha?
It feels a bit unlikely given how active this person was during this initial.
Namamatay nang walang dahilan yung Lucian.
I would be surprised if we continue to
Saan ba siya namatay? Hindi ko din napansin paano siya namatay.
Again, this would be hard to prove without further physical evidence. And it now looks like we might possibly have just that. You see, back in 2008, an American astrophysicist by the name of Joseph Eaton Taylor Jr. started working on something called the Deep Signal Propagation Reporter Program, or WISPR for short. He had previously received a Nobel Prize in Physics back in
Oh,
1996
shit.
for his work on pulsar, but he was also a keen amateur radio enthusiast. WISPR is a protocol for low-power radio transmission that explores how low, medium, and high frequency
Wala akong stallion dito.
propagate
Kanina pa ako
over
uminom.
large distances. And Taylor
Tapos na
designed
ako
to
uminom.
build the software that is used
Wala nang
to
stallion.
analyze these signals. When these signals move
Stress
over
na lang
large
meron ako.
distances, they sometimes scatter when they hit
Lasing ka na nga, may stress ka
and
pa
this
sa-
causes
sa laro.
anomalies in the signal strength.
Ang ilang
This was
buhay.
interesting for radio amateurs because they could sometimes use those
Nakakaputang ina.
reception. And crucially,
Ewan ko na lang talaga.
Hindi
ko ako nakakapag-second item, third item na yun.
These signals have been uploaded into a shared database and stored all the way back to 2008.
4-8 na ako, man.
I want to be
30 to 19 yung ano namin.
Taylor himself never designed this to use the
Ang ganda ng gap.
think that it is possible.
Nakakawala ng gana.
One system engineer called Richard Godfrey started exploring the possibility of using
Item lang, kaya to.
together with algorithms to look for anomalies in several different simultaneous transmissions as a kind of four-man's primary radar. Theoretically, if you know the exact location of the transmitter and the receiver, together with the time of day and about
Yun lang.
there might be a possibility to use tiny comparing anomalies in several of these signals to track something like an aircraft. And the really cool thing is that this technology samples thousands of signals every 2 minutes, which could potentially give us much more information than we previously had. Godfrey today, he and his colleagues, Professor Anders Wetche and Professor Simon Master, have been trying to analyze this database to try
Ang
and find
paper ko
traces
gago.
of itself. And in a report released on the 31st of August 2023, they claim that they have actually done just that. Again, this video is
Oh
not
shit,
about
yung base namin wala na.
it can be
Na farm bill na.
but what I find fascinating here is that it's based on verifiable stored data. So just like with DNA that couldn't be used much during the early years but has since been refined to incredible accuracy, maybe there actually is something hidden inside of these signals. This means trace data have actually already improved significantly from their first result, but their algorithms have evolving, and this latest report tells a quite fascinating story.
Nice.
Initially, the WISPR data coincided nicely with the existing radar information up until this prior to Dunbar, where it indicated that the aircraft made a turn to a more western heading.
Run, Sandro, run. Gag.
More suddenly course than indicated by the raw radar, and this could be because of the inherent impreciseness of the technology, or the same from the radar, which at that point was at the very limit of its effective range. In any case, the Whisper track continued up towards the northwest, where it
Naglaro't pinahirapan yung sarili eh, no? Pinahirapan ng... Ikaw, yung negra ka.
Some of the which it made a left turn towards Urban, or very close to what the other expert condition of the aircraft must have done to continue avoiding military radar and additional scrutiny by agency.
Des, men.
I won't go into
Wala na, wag na mag-dragon.
but I want to highlight a few important
Yung Smith, ginagamit na lang sa
This
cart eh.
data pointed to a track that wasn't completely straight down into the southern mountains. Instead, it showed a series of turns, each of which was pointing towards
What is manalo pa kami, no?
but not
What if manalo pa kami?
This corresponds
Uy, mag-shield ka!
that was still being highlighted, but in a planned way to avoid interfering with the system airways.
Tangina ka. You are nothing. You are nothing, Yasu.
Nor could whoever was flying
Uy!
see other traffic. If the intention was to not be
Sige, patay mo yan.
this type of behavior would make perfect sense since it's ultimately
Wag na, wag na, wag na.
very hard to predict in case it is partially monitored. The Whisper
Uy,
data
tangina,
also
nagyan sa mga
suggests that the
gago.
aircraft slowed down
Uma-
slightly in two different intervals on its guided flight down to the south, which could possibly mean step flights. But the thing that really stood out to me was the fact that the Whisper data
Umaanap
was
na tayo eh.
perfectly with all of the 7 Inmarsat handshake arcs, which is data that no one is really disputing.
Tangina naman.
Towards the end of the flight, the Whisper
Bobo.
position also indicated something.
Inom na.
very strange.
Tubig, pwede pa. Wala na akong inumin ngayon. Oh. Wala na, wala na.
In between the 6th and the 7th handshake, which would have been when the aircraft was predicted to be running out of fuel. The aircraft wouldn't do that by itself because the rudder compensating system of Boeing 777 is designed to compensate for the asymmetric
Gusto ko
thrust of
mag-mid.
an engine
Ayoko
failure.
mag-juggle.
So, if this pattern is actually
Gusto ko
followed,
mag-mid.
it must have been a deliberate act by whoever was in controls. Now, it is very hard to speculate on why someone would do
Bobo ng mga
something like
tao
that, but
ngayon.
at this time, it would have been
Bobo na
daylight
nga
in
ako,
that
dinagdagan
area,
pa
and the weather
nila.
was clear. So it is possible that
It's a
this
faint
was done to
unlock
look
pa.
out for ships in the area nearby, as a reassurance that the aircraft's final
Ayop
resting
na
place
to.
would not be seen. The DFO from the Inmarsat data indicated that the aircraft could have
Next
been
game, bawi
very
tayo, bawi
steep
tayo.
descent during the last low.
Si Gidaro,
As high as
kitang-kita si Gidaro.
14,500
Oh,
feet.
nakalock in sa League of Legends,
That
oh.
doesn't necessarily mean that it just dove straight into the sea.
Larong-laro si
Instead,
Gidaro.
again, according to the excellent report of Captain Lely and Jean-Luc Machan, there is a possibility that the right engine flamed out in the fuel starvation and that this led the person in charge to start the APU and open the crossfield valve to maximize the use of the remaining fuel. The APU standpipe sits a little bit lower in the tank than the engine itself, so that gives it a little bit
Nakakaputang
more
ina
access to
talaga.
the
Talo
fuel.
agad.
The
First
perfect
game.
valve would then have manually shut down
Ang
the
bobo na
main
nga
engine
ng siya ako,
to
bobo pa
maximize
kasama.
the use, which would
Nagsama pa
access to
talaga.
remote flight controls and systems for as
Imbis
long as
na
possible, and also
mag-grind
enable
pataas,
flights
grind
to
pababa
extend
yung nagagawa
wouldn't be
natin eh.
possible without either
Awit
one
na yan.
engine or the APU running. When the last Inmarsat login was completed, it lacked information from, for example,
No.
the payment system, which
34
is
LP na naman, 88 wins na. Ano ba to?
Since systems
Ay,
like
naku
the
po.
IFE would then have been checked to prioritize
ITFT pala yan, 24 LP pala solo duo.
According to Captain
12
Dennis,
wins, 12 wins pala. Sa TFT pala ako nag-TFT eh. Nag-TFT. Pag nagtatrabaho, nag-TFT ako.
Or as far as 67 nautical
Well,
miles
anyway,
south, if the aircraft was
wala bang free
flown to
dito?
maximize
Parang
flight
maging
and
okay naman yung ano ko.
touch down with flaps 30 selected. The Whisper data showed a possible last position at time 0,
Yun lang.
19 and 37 seconds, and after that there were no more correlated anomalous files. We do know that the aircraft crashed in the ocean, in or near the already searched area, because both internal and external parts of the aircraft have been found.
Uy! My
The confirmed
chest!
piece of debris comes from
Uy.
a flat wall to the right hand.
Ano kaya makukuha natin dito sa chest?
Components which are almost certainly coming from MH370.
Hi, Ma'am Katarina. Hindi naman ako nagkakatarina eh. Matagal na ako hindi gumagamit ng Katarina. Hype naman yan, no? Reroll natin. Kaso sayang, wala na tayo. Ito. Maganda ba to? Shanghai Scrolls Lilia. Pero hindi na din ako naglililia eh. Matagal na din eh. Paulit-ulit na lang mga champions ginagamit ko ngayon eh. Maganda to. Shanghai Lilia.
We can't
Ito kasi
play
yung
this
Red
process
Baron
for the
4K, isa to
record.
sa mga OG na skin eh.
Again,
So,
this is why
bawal
I
natin tong
think
i-ano, disassemble.
Link below
Disassemble to
are
tuloy.
two different
Reroll pala,
areas,
reroll.
opening two new search areas outside of those already
Ito
searched.
Ezreal
Biggest
pwede.
search effort in aviation.
Tapos, yung Nico
One of those
pwede.
theories are based on the skill and knowledge
Oh, ayan.
of veteran 777
Yung
captains, and
yung
the
Nick,
other,
yung ano, yung Lilia, okay
new
pa.
application of existing radio data.
Pwede ko naman gamitin yung
Data
Lilia.
that
Pag
has been
pag
recently
nag-jungle ulit ako, pwede tayo
for
mag-Lilia.
fights in other areas.
Go ba natin to? Yung mga epic skin na lang. Wala akong tatlong epic skin lang eh. Yung sa Israel, actually hindi ako nag-i-AD sa Israel. Match found na ang hindi ako hindi ako nag-i-AD sa Israel actually. Mid Israel ako before eh. AP lang. Burst AP na Israel. Nag-i-AD naman ako before pero mostly talaga mid AP Israel. Burst. Yun lang. Pero nung in-adjust na yung ano niya, scaling sa AP niya, hindi na masyado maganda yung ano, especially na rework siya. Ni-rework yung skill niya. So hindi na siya masyado maganda gawing AP unless maganda kang humagis ng skill. Yung skill shots mo mostly tumatama, maganda pa rin yung AP pag ganun. Pero pag 50-50 yung skill shots mo, wag ka na lang mag-Israel AP. Mag-AD ka na lang pag ganun. Kasi if ever na hindi tatama yung skill mo dun sa kalaban, pwede ka naman mag-auto-attack, diba? At least may damage ka pa. Kasi pag AP ko, wala kang masyadong damage as ano eh, sa maganda yung Israel. Maganda. Kaso nga lang ako more on skill shots ako eh. More on skill shots ako, kaya pinapractice ko yung skill shots ko ngayon. Like, kasi bumabalik-balik na tayo sa league eh, so dapat yung skill shots natin bumabalik-balik din. Pero unfortunately, it's still not coping up with the time na bumabalik tayo maglaro ng league eh. Yung skill shots natin, parang 10% lang eh. Huwei, pwede tayo. May Huwei sa mid. Okay. Huwei, ba tama pagkakabigkas ko ng pangalan niya? Huwei. Battle of skill shots na naman to. Pwede ako mag-mel ba ako? Pwede ako. Kaso parang napapangitan ako sa mel eh. Wag na lang. Iba na lang.
This tragedy remains the deadliest of any aircraft crash in history, and it wouldn't have been possible without a long list of truly bizarre coincidences. If even one of those happened just slightly differently, it would stop this disaster from happening.
Kung ano lang makita eh, no?
Happened means that this just isn't good enough. Every one of the coincidences that you're about to see were later thoroughly analyzed, and through that process, airlines and air traffic control authorities have since introduced new procedures that define our industry today.
2 seconds. Ito na lang.
The chain of events starts on 26th of
Nice.
March 1967,
More HP,
when
para medyo
a
tanky na
1.36
digger.
747-100 and full-time Tipper 173.
Pero honestly, yung skill nito ni Vika parang hindi ko pa natatiming ulit to. Yung stun niya. Medyo may delay kasi ito pag after ka mag-cast. May medyo delay to. After ng animation nag-apply sa'yo yung stun. So, medyo hindi ko na alam yung timing neto. So, we'll try.
And it's mostly elderly passengers who are due to get onto a cruise ship when they reach Las Palmas. Las Palmas is the capital of the Canary Islands and situated on Gran Canaria, which is one of the 8 main islands of the island. The Canary Islands is situated about 100 kilometers west of the Moroccan coastline, making it the most southern part of the Spanish territory. And because of its tropical and subtropical climate, it's a real hotspot for tourists from mainly Europe, but all over the world. Now, the Canary Islands back in 1977 had a little bit of political friction going on. A group called the MPA-IAC was fighting for independence of the Canary Islands from Spain, or at least to get a little bit of recognition and attention by the central government. But they did so using both non-violent and violent political campaigns. And one of those campaigns is going to form the first piece of the puzzle leading up to this disaster. In command of Pan Am Flight 1736 was
Uy,
56-year-old
buti
Captain
po si
Victor
Jomel,
Ross.
oh. Yung
Assisting
naglilig
him
din.
was 38-year-old First Officer Robert Bragg
Shoutout
and
to Jomel.
46-year-old flight
Nag-stream
engineer
din ng
George
League of Legends to
Warren.
dito sa Twitch.
They were very experienced
Follow
flight
sa
crew. They
akin.
took over the flight in New York for the final leg down towards
Yo,
Las Palmas.
brother.
When the aircraft arrived in New York, it was actually
Siyempre,
about
follow back
45
tayo.
minutes delayed, which
Diba?
meant that
Support
the
each
outbound
other.
flight down towards Las Palmas also became
Sana
slightly
nag-follow ka
delayed.
din sa Twitch ko,
That time
Jomel.
0742, Clipper 1736
Feeling close
took
ang
off
puto.
from JFK International Airport in New York and
Pwede
started
naman
flying
magsama
down
tayo
over the Atlantic
maglaro.
Ocean towards
Basta
Las
ano lang.
Palmas. On board, there were a
Basta
total of 16
Sunday
crew
lang.
members
Sunday.
and
Pwede ako hanggang
380
umaga or
passengers.
madaling araw.
While the Pan Am aircraft was making its way down over the Atlantic, another Boeing 747, a KLM flight 4805, was
Bro,
getting ready to
fuck.
depart from Amsterdam down towards Las Palmas Airport. This was also a charter flight, chartered by Holland International Travel Group, and
Putik
they were
Sindra.
due to take
Akala
the
ko, boy.
passengers from Amsterdam,
Huh?
bring them down to Las Palmas, and then
Kaya yung way?
turn
Sabot?
around down there, refill the aircraft, get new passengers on, and then fly back to Amsterdam as KLM Flight 4806, making it a fairly long
Dapat
day.
nag-ghost na lang ako.
In
Parang
charge
ang
of
ganda
these
ng
two
skin ng
flights was
Nami,
Captain
Coven
Jan
Nami.
Hopwell Heisen and Santos.
Sheesh.
He's 50 years old
Sheesh.
at the time, and he was working as the chief flight instructor on Boeing 747 fleet at KLM. This
Yay!
meant that he
Wala
spent
pang
12
numbers
more
yung
operating
bugs.
hours in the simulator compared to the other
Violet
pilots,
pala.
so maybe not as much time in the actual aircraft.
J-Drago
One of the pilots that
20.
had been
Pangalan,
trained on the
Baldwin,
type by Captain
Sniper,
Thomas
tsaka si
Sanson,
Him.
and indeed had been
Okay.
trained out by him just a few months earlier, was First Officer Claus Mears, who's been flying.
Hi guys, sa mga bagong viewers natin dyan, good
Together
good
with them
midnight
was
sa
also
inyo.
flight engineer Wilhelm Schröder, and Wilhelm Schröder was
A
very
follow will be
experienced, and he was
appreciated,
also
will be
known
highly
to
appreciated,
not be
guys,
afraid to
but
speak
if
his
you don't wanna
mind.
follow,
Something that
that's
we'll see
okay.
soon enough.
Just enjoy watching my stream, even though I'm not really that good.
KLM flight 4805 took off from Schiphol, Amsterdam International Airport with 14
Tatry natin,
crew members
maano
and
tong
234 passengers on board and started its travel down towards Las Palmas. As these two aircraft was now making their way down towards their destination, two young men walked into the terminal building in Las Palmas Airport. They walked up to the flower shop that was close to the check-in desk, and they stood there for a while before they turned around and hurriedly went outside of the terminal building. Behind, they left a bag, and what no one noticed at the time was that the
What
bag
the hell, missed?
At exactly 1 o'clock in the afternoon, a desk clerk inside of Las Palmas Airport received a phone call
Lol.
from someone claiming that they were a representative of the MPAIAC, saying that there were bombs put inside of the terminal building and that they had exactly 15 minutes to clear the entire building out. Almost to
Nice.
the second, 15 minutes
Garen
later,
one trick,
the
oh.
bomb that was placed
Tas
inside
kill
the
yun,
bag
eh.
of the flower shop exploded. This caused part of the roof inside of the terminal building to fall down and other widespread damage,
Oh, shit.
as well as injuring 4 people inside of the building. But remember how the person who called said that there were bombs, as in plural? Well, now the authorities needed to assume that there was more than
Kailangan
one
pala ng
bomb
stock
inside
ng
of the
ano,
building. So they
passive
needed to search it.
sa mga
Because
streak,
of
oh.
that, a decision was taken to stop all
Oh.
inbound flights into Las Palmas Airport. Almost exactly at the same time as this was happening down on the ground, KLM flight 4805 arrived into a holding pattern above Las Palmas. Initially, they were told to hold, to wait, but pretty soon they were told that we don't know how long this holding is going to take or how long this cleanup is going to take, so you need to divert towards Los Rodeos Airport in Tenerife. This meant a short 25-minute flight over towards Los Rodeos, and at time 13:38, KLM 747 touched down on runway 30 in Los Rodeos Airport. They taxied up until almost the terminal building, far north as they could on the apron, and they parked there. As the KLM flight was diverting, Pan Am Flight 1736 had also entered a holding pattern a few thousand
Ay,
feet
miss naman
above
tuloy ako.
the KLM aircraft. They heard the news about the bomb, just like the KLM flight did, and they also asked if they, potentially could hold instead of diverting, because they were also holding a lot of extra people. But just like the KLM flight, the Pan Am flight was also told that no, we will not have any aircraft in our airspace, so please divert over towards Los Rodeos Airport. So they did, and they landed at time 14:15, about 37 minutes after the KLM flight, and also taxied to the airport. And at this point, Los Rodeos Airport had started to fill up with all of the inbound flights that were supposed to come into Las Palmas was now being diverted, which meant that both the APUS and the taxiways was now
Saktong
becoming
stuck
quite
lang.
crowded with diverted flights. Isn't it frustrating when you're about to dive into an amazing article or video only to be hit by that
Shit,
dreaded
missed
access
one.
denied page? It has happened to me many times, and it's deeply irritating every single time. But there is a way around it. Today's sponsor, NordVPN. Nord allows me to effortlessly bypass these geographical barriers and unlock all of the information or content that I need. But NordVPN isn't only about accessing content. They also must-have tool to help keeping your information secure, especially if you're
Late na ako pumunta, men.
Just picture
My
it.
buds.
You're chilling in a hotel lobby, grabbing some coffee at the airport, or soaking up the sun at a beach cafe, and then you decide to use the available Wi-Fi. Sounds pretty good, right? Yeah, except those public Wi-Fi networks can come with some serious digital hassles.
Sayang, sayang.
Again and again. No one will help you to
Wait, ba't pwede na mag-TP yung ano?
keep the data private and secure, and they have even
Uy,
added some extra
dito.
awesome cybersecurity tools to keep your data further safe. So, to start using all of these awesome tools, just use my link here below, which is nordvpn.com/pilot. nordvpn.com/pilot. That will give you a great discount plus 4 free
I don't
months
mind.
and a 2-year deal, and it's completely risk-free since Nord always gives you a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you, Nord. Now, back to
Okay,
you.
uwi na ako lang
Now
ng
let's
umaga.
talk a little bit about the airport. These two airports.
Ilan CS niya? 47, 48 ako.
Los Rodeos
Okay.
Airport is situated up in the northeastern corner of Tenerife. It's situated up in a hill at an altitude of about 2,000 feet. Now, Tenerife is dominated by
No need to use TP for now.
in Spain, actually. It's a volcano called Pico de Teide. And Pico de Teide creates some quite unique meteorological phenomena
Oh, shit.
where these humid trade winds that are coming in from
Nang
the
tagal ng
Atlantic
TP
is
ko.
getting pushed up against the mountainside. And when it does so, cools down, the moisture falls out and starts forming clouds
tagal
or
ng
fog,
TP.
and that can happen really, really quickly. This also means that down the southern side of Tenerife is still always sunny, so the kind of weather that you associate with going to Canary Islands is down south. But up in the
Tagal ng
north, it's
TP.
always humid.
Hindi ako sanay sa sa TP, sa bagong TP.
And because the airport is
Napakatagal.
2,000 feet up,
Or feel ko lang na matagal.
even recent
Hindi lang ako sanay na may TP.
2,000 feet high clouds, when they come in with the airport, they pop down.
Hindi kasi
And
gaya
this
nung
is a
before.
very interesting phenomenon.
Hindi
where
nag-ano pa yung
it's not quite fog. Because when you think of
Luis
fog,
Olay by
it's
Jungle.
that where the visibility
Pero that's
stays
okay naman. Pwede naman tayo
lower
mag-scale.
the same over
Pero
time,
yung
like
uniform
maybe
ano.
500 meters visibility and it stays the same. But because
Ay,
what you
tayo.
have here is actually sometimes rolling clouds that are coming in and disappearing, you can have really big variations in visibility where there's maybe 2-3 kilometers visibility in 1 minute and 3 minutes later it's down to 300 meters. When these two aircraft arrived in the Tenerife, the visibility was good. It was a good place. But that very quickly started changing, and that's what we're coming to the end. Another thing about Los Rodeos Airport is that it had a very poor safety record. Between the years of 1965 and 1968, there was on average 1 crash per year in the airport
Ui.
or in its surroundings, claiming 98 lives. And just a few years before this disaster, there had been another serious accident happen. Because of this, a decision had been taken to build a new airport down in the southern part of Tenerife instead, where the weather was much better. This airport was actually paved and almost ready to be introduced in 1977, but because of some political infighting, that hadn't happened yet. This new airport down
Wala ko siyang
south
snipe.
had ground build-up, but Tenerife North, Los Rodeos
Patay ka, gago ka.
did not have ground
Nakabawi
build-up
din ako sa'yo.
at the accident. When the KLM flight pulled up and parked next to the terminal building, initially Captain Van Santen and his crew wanted all of the passengers to stay on board. I'm guessing he probably was hoping that this was just going to be a very short ground delay and that they could depart towards Las Palmas almost immediately. But after about 20 minutes it became clear that this was not going to be the case, and he decided that the passengers to disembark, go into the terminal building,
Uy.
stretch their legs a little bit, maybe grab something from the bar, and he issued them
Wanna
with
get one
reboarding
plating,
passes so that
at
they
least one.
quickly could get back onto the aircraft if they were told that Las Palmas had opened again. The Pan Am aircraft that came in a little bit later wanted to do the same thing, but were told that the terminal building was now completely full with all of the KLM passengers and that it wouldn't be good to mix the two. So
Goodbye.
the crew decided to
I'm
keep up
out.
the
9
board,
minutes,
but they
Rowa.
did
Okay, that's good.
we brought up towards the
That's
aircraft
good,
so
that's
the
good.
passengers
Uy,
could
bago.
walk onto the steps,
Adik ka ba?
stretch their legs a little bit, get some fresh air while they were waiting. The KLM passengers stayed inside of the terminal building for about 2 hours before they were reboarded. In the Pan Am cockpit,
Okay,
the
10 minutes
crew tried to
Rowa.
make the best of the situation. Captain Grubbs
Not
made
bad.
a PA telling all the passengers that those who wanted could come in and
I think
flight deck
hindi na lang ako
and
mag-arch.
guiding them
Arch
around,
Angel.
showing this marvelous
Pero check natin
aircraft
mamaya.
that is the Boeing
Kasi dapat kung gusto ko mag-Arch Angel, dapat nag-ano na ako eh. Eto eh, yung Fear of the Goddess, early pa lang.
In the KLM cockpit, though, the mood was very different because Captain Van Santen and the first officer and flight engineer had started talking about the recent changes in Dutch flight time limitations legislation. Up until recently, before 1977, there had been quite lax rules regarding how long a pilot could work. But recently, those rules have changed dramatically, and there was now a very clear limit to how long you were allowed to operate. If you, as a captain, went outside of these limitations, you would fail as a judge and potentially serve jail. And this is what they were discussing because they could clearly see that if the ground delay would become much longer, so then they would have to go very quickly over towards Las Palmas at minimal delay there in order to be able to return down and land within
Bakit siya
these
nag-flash?
limitations. This made the flight crew quite anxious. Right? They did not want to get stuck on Las Palmas.
Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God.
His wife at home, his children, and he said immediately that he was afraid that he would
Grabe naman yan.
home in Las Palmas and become very, very worried.
Okay, ayoko na umasa sa kasama. 03 pala yung
They were
Yorick.
really looking into ways that they could minimize the delay as much as possible to get
Not
themselves
good.
back towards Amsterdam. And this is where Captain Van
Grabe
Santen
pag-rotate ng broom,
has
nasapat sa
very
agad.
dire consequences. Because he decides that if he's going to be sitting on the ground here, he might as well be uploading as much fuel as he needs to fly over to Las Palmas and to fly back to Amsterdam. That way, he's going to minimize the time on the ground in Las Palmas. This is a very sound decision. This is something I completely understand myself. Because if you're stuck there, why not utilize the time to upload the fuel? But once you start the fueling of 747, it's a fairly big operation. It's not something that you want to stop. So he was kind of gambling on this delay was going to take another hour or so for them to be able to complete their fueling process. And crucially, this fueling process was also going to make it
Ano na naman, manggugulo ka na naman.
that
Ang ina mo talaga.
higher speed in order to take off later on and also a longer takeoff distance. Only minutes after Captain
You're
Van
dead.
Santen has initiated refueling on this jet, he gets notice that Las Palmas has now opened.
Diba easy?
That it could go and fly over. Weather is
Easy din ako dito sa Lisin.
now lower clouds starting to roll into the field, and the visibility is getting worse minute by minute.
Sayang. Sabi ko na nga ba, easy din ako sa Lisin eh.
But he's told that unfortunately
Hype na yun.
flight is fueling and there is not enough ground clearance for him to be able to maneuver his jet up and past the KLM.
Alam ko naman may Lisin pero nag-go pa din ako eh. Nag-advance pa din ako, kupal.
KLM flight finished with
Diba?
fueling for them to depart.
Instinct na, hindi pa nakinig eh.
When Captain Grubbs heard this, he went out onto the radio frequency and he said, "How long is this fueling going to take?" And Captain Van Santen responded from the KLM cockpit saying that it's going to take another 20 minutes.
Nami-miscalculate ako sa TP, talaga. Hindi ko na masyado na, ano, pag nagre-resto, hindi ko masyado makalculate yung TP. But when they came back in, they confirmed that the distance was not big enough. It was Parang
less than
nababad trip
20
ako sa TP ngayon.
but it was short. So they would have to sit and wait until the KLM had
Warded ka tol,
At
sige.
the same time, all
Pilitin mo pa.
the crew had returned back to the KLM aircraft. So we're now getting ready for departure. All except one. Mrs.
Nag-flash. Ay, thank you. Aray ko. TY Lisin. Sinipa sa kasama. Gagi. Uy, galaw.
So at the time, all of the passengers were boarding the flight. She was already in the car, getting away from the airport together with her boyfriend, and that is going to turn her into a very rare.
Nagalit na yung ano, yung si Indra, gago. Sinipa ako ng lazy pa. Palapit sa kanya. Kaso nga lang yung bot namin nung namatay sa pangalawang dragon na yun. Sayang. Kung hindi lang sana pumunta yung Lizzie, pwede ka naman patayin yung Sinda kasi ayaw niya namang umuwi agad eh. Gusto niya pa rin maghagis ng skills niya. So may chance pa rin talaga na pwede ko siyang mapatay.
He then heard just a few minutes later, and before the check-in had been completed, calling for startup clearance. So this is something that's normally done by the first officer. So the fact that Captain Van Santen was doing this himself indicates that he was also indeed.
Daming bots. What do you mean bots?
At time 16:56, the KLM crew had finished starting up their engines.
Ano sasabihin mong bots?
They went on to the ground controller frequency and were cleared to taxi into holding position for runway 12.
161 stocks in 15 minutes.
They got transferred over to the approach control.
Pwede na no? Pwede. 200 stocks before 20 minutes dapat eh. Minimum.
Turn off the runway on the third exit on their left-hand side.
Pero yeah. Wala tayong magagawa kasi kakabalik lang tayo natin talaga mag-league eh.
Third exit, he read
Huwag na natin pilitin kasi baka ma-stress na talaga. Ma-stress lang tayo.
Third and first sound very similar, especially on the way you reach it.
Hindi na talaga ako marunong mag-timing skill tree na ito.
You change the clearance to just backtrack all the way, runway 12, until you reach the end of the runway, make a
Uy.
into turn,
Uy.
and hold position.
Uy.
This was read back by the first officer. But only a few seconds later, Captain Van Santen came on to the
Uy, Yorick.
and asked whether or not he should turn left.
Ewan ko na lang talaga sa Yorick. May free words pa sila. Free words cleaner oh.
Right. The approach controller said no.
Ay, wow.
Continue taxi straight ahead. Okay, so it's fine. We continued taxiing down, but when they parked taxiway Charlie 4, which is the fourth,
Kulang ka pa ng alak. Oh, kulang pa.
Santen again
Naka-isang bucket lang kami.
the officer and asked whether he should turn off there. This can maybe be interpreted as a little bit of confusion in the KLM cockpit at the time, but with my experience
Tarantado ka ba, Tol?
in low visibility conditions,
Aray ko.
very, very hard. You see very little. It's actually a quite scary situation where you only see a few lights. And in this case, the center line light in the runway wasn't working either. So it's quite common that you
Lang, mukhang ang tanga niya.
the first officer to confirm the taxi route. Confirm if it's
Gago na ginawa nun. Sinalo lahat ng skills ko.
about where you are or what you should do, you always ask. So I didn't
Aray ko
find
po.
that very strange. But it is also possible that Captain Van Santen is now starting to think ahead, and he's starting to think about the flight over to Las Palmas, the country of the lake in Las Palmas, and then the
We can
flight
trap them,
back
we can
to
trap them.
Amsterdam and the flight time in space. And he could start to become a bit distracted. And if that's the case, well then that could indicate that he's actually losing a little bit of current situational awareness because he's thinking
Uy ba to?
ahead, something
Sindra.
that
Sindra ata to.
also tends to do, especially when there's trouble brewing. And that could explain the action that he's about to take next. As the KLM aircraft is taxiing now, the visibility was
Useless
indicated
jungle and
about
support.
500
Uy, okay. Medyo okay naman yung Nami oh.
Some witnesses of the
Grabe talaga mag-demand ng mga ADC no.
at times as low as 100.
Pero baka nagkakaproblema lang talaga sila sa linya.
Situation that we were talking about before, where there was low clouds that was moving over the runway. And this meant that at times the visibility
Uy,
was really
shit,
poor,
pangit.
and then one of these clouds would move out of the way and the visibility could improve quite significantly. And this was also indicated because the cockpit voice recorder indicates that
I can see you, Sindra.
The cockpit was on for a couple of minutes, but as the aircraft was reaching the end of the runway and started to turn around, the aircraft turned off to the infield right there, indicating that the visibility possibly was a little bit better at that part of the runway. At the same time, as the KLM aircraft is now backtracking the runway, it's a 1736, the Pan Am 747, received its startup clearance. They start up all of their 4 engines and they press back the clearance.
Oh shit.
And as they're now tracking out towards the same holding position, runway 12, Captain Grubbs is indicating to his fellow flight crew members that he would actually like to stay off the runway, to wait until the KLM flight
Uy,
started
sayang.
instead of backtracking behind them. Unfortunately, this is never really transmitted
Sayang,
as traffic
sayang.
control because as he is talking about this, they get several radio calls and also a frequency change. And when they change over to the approach frequency, which is the same frequency as the KLM aircraft is on, the approach control gives them the clearance to enter on the 1-2 track,
Wow.
and then turn
Why so bobo daw?
was left off the runway. It's the same clearance that they originally gave to the KLM.
Ayoko na lang
You might
magsalita.
ask yourself, if Captain Grubbs did not want to enter the runway, he wanted to wait behind, why didn't he insist on doing that?
Ang ano item ng yun eh.
Will be explained by the fact that when we're flying into countries where English is not the first language, and
Uy!
when people control that can hear a strong accent and maybe struggling a bit with English,
Why so
then
stupid
sometimes
naman ang
flight
Garen?
crews accept clearances that is not their first choice, just in order to make sure that there are no further confusion happening by starting a discussion. And Captain Grubbs actually, in subsequent interviews, indicated that, yeah, that was definitely part of it. In any case, as the aircraft is now entering and backtracking the runway, still in fog, there is discussions going on in the cockpit about which exits they were supposed to take. Once again, they're not sure whether or not they should take Charlie 1, which is the first exit to the left, or the third exit to the left. Exactly the same discussion as the KLM crew had before. Another really important thing to understand about Tenerife is the way that the taxiways are built. So the third exit on the left-hand side coming from this direction is actually what we call a high-speed turn-off from the landing runway 30 direction. This means that it's a nice turn-off when you come from that direction, but if you backtrack the runway, like these two aircraft did, it would require a very steep 148-degree turn to the left, followed by another 148-degree turn to the right to follow the parallel taxiway. That might be possible for a smaller aircraft, but for a larger
Ayoko na lang talaga mag ano, front na masyado kasi
practically impossible. Especially
hintay na lang ako sa set.
the taxiway.
Kakalimutan.
This is why the flight crew members, when they're discussing this, they're actually talking about maybe the controller meant Charlie 4 rather than Charlie 3. So the
Ganon na lang, hintay na lang ako sa kasama mag
This is a
pumasok para
high-speed
makapag-scale pa
turn-off
ako ng
from
maayos.
1-2,
Ma-assist
which
pa
is
ako.
a nice 35-degree turn-off
Supportahan ko
from
sila ng
and would make much more sense. Before the Pan Am crew could get on to the
maganda.
frequency and confirm which taxiway they were supposed to turn left on, the approach controller actually came in and he asked, KLM 4805, can you confirm which taxiway you just passed? First officer in the KLM flight came back and said,
Mamamatay pa ako dito,
we think
hayop.
that we just passed Charlie 4, indicating that the visibility was still quite bad. Now, I want you to note that the approach controller frequently made pauses in transmission. So he started off the transmission and then he held it there for a while.
Let's go, let's try to
Indicating
defend.
that he might have to think a
Ah,
little
ino
bit
to.
about what he was about to say. And this is going to have a
Kaya pa to, mag-scaling lang. Patayin nyo yan.
At time 17:03 and 29 seconds, the Anam first officer
Slow hands.
and confirmed we are to taxi off on the third exit, really putting emphasis on the word third. The approach controller came in and said, A firm, taxi off on the third exit, 1, 2, 3, third. And I said, okay.
Wala akong damage, gago.
And this is important because the cockpit voice recorder in the KLM cockpit indicated that at this specific time there was complete silence in the cockpit, indicating that the flight crew members was listening out the situation.
Patayin nyo
There
eh.
is a possibility
Ang tigas
that
ng
what
listen.
they thought they heard was a Slipper 173
Tayo namatay.
was
Na-burst.
looking at the exit they were about to turn onto and calling air traffic control just to confirm that this was the correct exit that they needed to take. In that case, this aircraft was just about to turn off the runway. In reality, the Slipper 1736 was just calling to confirm which taxiway they were about to take. It was further, much further down the runway. In the
No!
cockpit, there was a
You can still do this.
atmosphere, they were making
Kung sumuko po, kung yung taga-ibang bansa kayong hat kayong galing yung umiyak. Putang ina mo. Bakla ang puta.
And they also at this point started doing their before the start check. The cockpit voice recorder in the Pan Am aircraft indicates that the pilots were
Ang dali umiyak ng mga taga-ibang bansa, puta.
They call out things like, there is one,
Tanga-tanga.
there's the second one. But curiously, there is no mention.
Baog na nga, iiyak pa. Hayop ang puta. Ayaw na lang gumawa ng paraan para mag-scaling eh.
Because they were listening out
Makabawi
to the ATC frequency, just as KLM started receiving their
Di racist yan, tangina mo. Racist, gago ka. Bobobo nila. Marami namang bobo sa Pilipinas. Madami na nga tayo ditong bobo. Dumagdag pa silang hype sila.
And it's very possible that all of the flight crew members, after the
Pag nabaog sila like 1-4, 1-3, 1-5, mga ganun. Gusto na lang talaga mag-surrender.
was just focusing on
Magbigti na lang sila.
and then missed the third taxiway, the one that they were supposed to start off from, and continued taxi down the runway towards the fourth exit. At times,
Pwede naman to, winnable naman to. Kung hindi lang sila tangina niya.
7135, report when leaving the runway. This is the incorrect call sign for the Pan Am.
Ayan, nice
But
one.
They understand that it's for them, and they just respond.
Nice one din yung base natin.
This is common way of accepting basically the same thing we call. But the problem
namali yung
is
skill
that
ko.
if you are in another aircraft,
Ay shit, mali din skill ko, gago.
your only obstacle on runway just stop their turn off,
What?
and then you hear this message, you might misinterpret that as a confirmation
Wag ako,
of
tol.
the cleared runway.
Nasa gilid lang ako.
Of going to report when they're cleared runway. We will never know if this is what happened in the KLM country, but it is likely that something like this did happen. A few seconds later, the approach controller once again confirms the frequency and gives a message to both the KLM flight crew and the Pan Am flight crew. And he says that the center line lights are out of service. He did this in response to an earlier question that Captain Van Santen had
Patayin
asked
mo!
regarding if they could get center line lights. And the significance of this is
Ano?
that without center line
Pinapalibutan na tayo ng mga
your
minions.
minimum visibility that you're required to have in order to do the takeoff.
Tipin ka pala paglasing. Hindi naman.
To over 800 meters.
I'm just spitting
This
facts.
was discussed.
Bobo talaga nila.
Pan Am cockpit, but it wasn't discussed.
Kung
in
bobo
the
tayo, mas
KLM.
bobo sila.
And that could potentially be because at the point they were at the runway, the visibility might be much better than it was.
Kaya pala yung taga atin,
2,000 meters away from the
madaling mag-rank up sa kanilang sa lugar nila eh.
KLM flight 8504 has now completed its 180 degrees turnaround and is facing straight down into the takeoff direction. As soon as the turn
Ganun pala reason.
Captain Rocco Van Santen starts advancing thrust levels to stabilize.
De, joke lang
But
naman.
here is where
Pero may bobo talaga sila sa kanila. Mga bobo sa kanila, ang dali
wait a
umiyak.
minute, we haven't got any
Surrender agad. Ayaw mo lang mag-try.
Captain Van Santen reduces the thrust back vital again.
Ang bilis ma-surrender eh. No?
I know that. Go ahead. Ask. First of submerged in a little
Sa
bit of a hurry.
atin, bago mag-surrender, mag-trust talkan muna sila.
KLM
Umiiyak eh.
8504, we are ready for takeoff and we are waiting for ATC here. By saying it this way, it can be construed that first of submerged is asking both for takeoff clearance and en route clearance at the same time. Remember, they haven't received the clearance, which is how they're supposed to navigate after they depart. They need to have that before they depart, but they also need
Dito
to
tayo,
get
dito tayo.
takeoff clearance in order
Dito
to start
tayo,
takeoff.
dito
The
tayo.
group controller comes in, he's been waiting for the KLM crew to ask for ATC clearance, and he gives him them the
Oops.
following clearance. KLM
Oh, sige, pumasok ka dito, bulag ka.
You are cleared to the Papa Beacon, plan to maintain flight on 90, right turn after takeoff, proceed on heading 040 degrees to intercept radial 325 towards La Palma V1. This clearance
Buhayin mo ko. Okay.
takeoff.
Buti na lang, nakakaspa.
Captain Rocco Van Santen thinks that the runway is now.
We win or not. We win.
This clearance
Sige, sige, nice.
takeoff and on
Hindi pa kami nakapagpusamid eh. No?
respond to the
Ito
yaw
muna biling ko.
and start advancing the thrust levels. So some of the mirrors who have to read this clearance
Ayaw mag-VR.
here on the cockpit voice recorder is
Sige, mid na lang.
He reads
Okay na yan.
Roger sir, we are clear
Ganun lang pala kailangan. Papabit lang pala. Tapos flash out para pumasok yung kalaban.
And we are now at takeoff. While he is still reading this clearance back,
Pero kailangan ko talaga mabuhay. all throughout the class.
check thrust.
Para pwede naman ako
And
makapag
the thrust
ano
level
ng
to
skills
take
ko.
off position. This is likely
Uwi na kayo,
why
man.
he added on. We
Enough
are
na yung
now
1
at
tower para
takeoff,
sa isang
or
class.
we are taking
Successful
off.
class.
It has been impossible during the
Bawi na bawi.
because it was recorded to actually hear exactly what it is that it said. But in any case, it definitely said under threat. The time is now 17, 0, and 11 seconds. And in about 39 seconds, the worst aviation disaster in
Kailangan mag-reward dito, tol.
But at this point,
But
there have been three things that could have potentially stopped it from happening. Because as the approach controller hears the readout from the first officer, takeoff, as in we are at takeoff position, which is what he is expecting us to say. So he responds with, okay,
Ang tagal kasi mag-reward.
and he waits a few seconds and stand by for takeoff. I will call you. But the Pan Am aircraft, who's
Dapat
still
dumiretso na agad sa
taking
VR
off,
para mag-reward eh.
they think that they hear that
Ba't ang ina mo?
KLM aircraft is about to take off. So the first officer goes in, and at the same time as the approach controller is calling on frequency, he also calls. And he says, we are still
Yun
passing
lang.
down the runway, Picker
Ah,
1736. The problem is that
Ayaw agad kasi
those
pumunta
two
eh.
messages, when they're being transmitted at the same time, causes interference on the frequency. And the only thing that is
Sige,
heard is
mamaya ka sa akin eh.
the HC controllers okay, and then a really shrill noise comes out. None of the two other stations are recording, not the controller.
Sige,
not
pag
the
BR na
aircraft,
sila. Dip, dip,
hear
dip,
the
dip,
shrill
dip, 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 dip.
so this means that effectively KLM has only heard okay. The approach controller now thinks that he's given a fairly clear message to the KLM aircraft, and he refocuses his attention on the Pan Am aircraft instead. And he calls them saying, Papa Alpha 1736, confirm when you're clear on the runway. If the 1736 comes back and says,
go mo yung scene daw, sige.
when we are clear of the runway. If the
Tol, blow na lang, tol. Huwag ka nang...
As these messages are being sent out in the frequency, the KLM aircraft is now accelerating down the runway. And as the speed builds up, they're likely getting into worse visibility. This requires more focus and more attention by the pilot, but one of the pilots, the flight engineer,
Ay,
Schroeder,
ano ko, ewan.
he actually has a lower workload at this point, but he listens into the daily messages.
Ano mo
And at
talaga?
time 17:06:30, he leans forward and says, "So, are they not clear of the runway then?" Captain Van Santen, who's deeply
Isang ano na lang talaga to, matatalo na kami.
Here, says, "What did you say?" And that engineer Schroeder says,
Gago ka, gago ka, gago ka.
Clear of the runway there, the Pan Am. Now, Captain Santon says in a very convincing voice, "Oh yes." And those were the last three things that couldn't stop this disaster from happening. In the Pan Am
Diba?
cockpit, the pilots have now passed the third taxiway to the left that they were supposed to leave, and they're now taxiing down towards the fourth exit instead. The movement in the cockpit was actually quite relaxed, and they're making fun a little bit about the KLM captain and his perceived impatience at this point, because they have been the ones who've been waiting for him to finish fueling.
Buang.
At time 17,
Buang
38
talaga.
seconds, this is 11 seconds prior to the collision, Captain Gross is looking out through his windshield, and he starts to see the headlights of the KLM aircraft. Initially, he thinks that they're standing still, so he just says, "Oh, there he is." But very quickly he understands that these headlights are not standing still, and he exclaims, "Oh, God damn it, that son of a bitch is coming, he's coming!" First Officer Braggs responds with, "Get off, get off!" And Captain Grubbs,
Yes
full
po.
tilt
Cairo
to the left,
19.
tries to get his jet out
PC
into
specs
the
ba?
grass and away from
Ano?
the oncoming 747.
Wait, eto.
He adds
Check
full
natin.
thrust, but his
AMD
aircraft
Ryzen
weighs about
3 2200G.
340 tons, and it will not
Processor
accelerate
ko.
that quickly. The
Ayan,
highest
8
speed that
gig.
they managed to get up to try the
Ayan.
collision is about 20 knots.
Wala akong ano, wala akong tawag dito. Yung, ano tawag dito? Yung drive, wala ako nun. Useless jungle. Eh ano ba naman kasi, umiiyak-iyak po mga kasama. Yes po, integrated lang. This is not my PC actually. This is PC from work.
As the aircraft gets momentarily airborne just a second prior to the collision. The number 4
Kang ganyan, tol.
right-hand wing of the tail end jet now slices into the first class lounge of the Pan Am
Gotta be
jet.
the settings.
Opposite
Yeah,
the
yeah,
bolt
smooth.
for the 747.
Smooth siya. Pero hindi minsan ano din. May times din na parang nag-i-stuck siya. Pero ano lang, like 1 second lang ganun.
Severe destruction. The KLM jet continues to fly for another 160 meters.
You
before
bitch.
it sinks back onto the
Ilang
runway,
bit rate
this
mo,
time
bro?
without its landing gear, which has been torn off
Bitrate
in
ko sa OBS.
The jet continues
Sa
to
OBS
slide
ba?
for another couple of hundred meters, slightly to the right of center line, turning slightly clockwise at first.
Uy, patay na naman sana siya kung
A wild
wala lang,
fire
joke lang.
breaks out, and all 248 passengers and crew on board are lost. In the Pan Am aircraft, it is now complete pandemonium. Most passengers do not have time to even understand what happened.
deads na yan.
In the cockpit, all three
Oh, ayun na, sayang.
survived the initial impact, but as the flight engineer is grabbing for the fire handles in the roof to try to turn off the engine, he finds himself just grabbing in clean air because that part of the cockpit roof has been torn off. All of the passengers that were sitting in the first class lounge died from impact, and most of the passengers who actually survived actually managed to get out of holes in the body from the first class lounge below that hole in the cockpit. They couldn't open the emergency
Nice,
exit
nice, nice,
because
nice, nice,
the
nice.
structure of the aircraft had been severely bent by the impact.
Tinweak mo pa Twitch OBS settings ah. No. Yung bitrate lang nung una kasi pero ngayon may nagka-problema ako sa Facebook, hindi na ako makapag-stream sa Facebook ngayon. Hindi na di-display yung ano ko. Kaya sa Twitch na lang muna ako. Parang may na-adjust ako sa settings na hindi ko alam, hindi ako aware. Parang nakalimutan ko. Isonet lang kasi yan. Ang ina mo, hindi isonet. Gago ka. Sira ulo ka, Clarky. Wait, papakita ko sa'yo wait, ito. Yung bitrate sa settings ko baka ma-exit ko pa. Sa OBS. Video bitrate ko is 6,000. Pero normally, 5 lang to before. 5. Ginawa kong 6. Kasi sa ginugol ko, mostly ginagamit nila na bitrate sa OBS nila for streaming Facebook and Twitch is 6,000. Pero kung hindi naman, pwede naman 5. Uy, Garen! Ang hirap mo namang hayop ka. Ang taga-ibang bansa talaga, oh. Sige, magsulo ka dyan. Hindi ka umaasa sa passive na region mo. Hindi na ako nakakabili ng item. Yung namin hindi pa nag-forward sa mga objectives, hayop. Nakakaano talaga. Yes, kahit get mo na lang yung blue ah. Kailangan ko talaga yan.
Now, they very quickly realized that there was nothing they could do in the
Ang hirap pag nasa front ako. Tol!
They put their forces in to try to rescue
Langay na talaga.
and they managed
Yung nami. Ayaw mag-skill. Hayop. Ang bilis pa naman ng lasing.
that had gotten out onto the runway and kept it from igniting with lightly safe.
Ayun, kita mo. Kita mo, Cairo. Minsan parang nag-FPS drop siya, pero konti lang. Like, segundo lang talaga. Yun yung Pero okay lang naman, overall. As long as na-enjoy ko yung laro. Basta hindi lang siya magiging mag-black screen. Yun lang talaga. If makapag-build ako ng zones, pwede ako maging bait. Gagawin ko na lang bait sarili ko. Kasi doon na kami nananalo sa class. Hindi nagpo-front yung mga kasama ko eh. Naghihintay pa kung sino yung maano ng kalaban. 38 minutes na. Yung namin hindi din nagsiset ng maayos. Gary, umuwi ka na, hype ka. Okay, I'm alive. I'm alive. They didn't question the cause of the accident, which was clearly that they came and had taken off without safety. But instead, they delved a little bit deeper into why this happened. Nice.
Experienced captain like Captain Rocco Santos would take a decision like that. And they looked into some optimal
Nice one.
work between the cockpit crew crews in both aircraft and air traffic control, possibly due to
Free Elder to, pero hindi ko alam kung saan sila pupunta nito.
People might have been slightly distracted. There was a noise indicated on the ATC tape that would indicate that the controller might have been actually looking at a football game at the same time. We also look into the psychological factors that could influence the crew in the airline cockpit who have taken the decisions that they took. Now I know that a lot of the stories, movies, videos, and books that have been made about this horrendous accident have focused a lot of attention on the power
Di matatapos to.
of the airline, including the very experienced training captain, Captain Charles Townsend, and his first officer, Mary. And the fact that his first officer wouldn't feel
Elder.
speaking up against his captain. But that kind of
Words namin. Sana may words ka pa. Words para makita sila kung saan sila dadaan.
He was new on the 747, but he was a very experienced pilot. And he did speak up. Remember when Captain Van Zanten wanted to start the takeoff roll as soon as he turned the aircraft around? He was first officer Merritt, spoke up and said, "No, stop, hold on, we need to get our HQ." And that would indicate that he definitely
Oh shit,
was able
natamaan ako.
to speak up against Captain Van Zanten. And the fact that Van Zanten started his takeoff roll while he was still reading back the HC clearance definitely disturbed him, but it is very likely that he still thought that the runway ahead was clear, that there's no danger, and what Van Zanten was
Isang
doing
panalong class
was
pa.
a procedural mistake.
Kasi secure na to.
Nothing more than that. And this is why I think it was very important that the Dutch investigation team actually did add their notes onto this final report and started looking
Saka
for
isang blue na buff
root
din.
causes to why this mistake
1 minute and 75
Was it
seconds.
because Captain
Kailangan ng blue buff.
was an instructor pilot that spent a lot of time in the simulator and was used to giving out all HC clearance? We will never know, but what we do know is that these notes, together with the Spanish final report, did end up causing a lot of discussions about crew resource management and the importance of intra-cockpit discussions, but also how important it is to have very clear and unambiguous phraseology between traffic control and pilot, so that these kind of mistakes, these kind of misunderstandings could never happen. For example, now we never use the word takeoff unless it is
Oh, God.
together with the takeoff here. We call it departure.
Ulap namin!
Also,
Tangina, boom!
and rules about the need for very
Bobo din
clear
ako.
taxiway marking so that flight crew could easily find them.
Walang advanced thinking tong namin. Ayaw mag-ult agad eh. Para hindi na makapag-skill yung mga kalaban. Makapag ano pa ako, baklang konti. Yung gari nag-solo, namatay din naman.
But as an industry, we did what we always try to do. We take these hard-earned lessons
you die?
and try to use them to make the industry both better and safer for everyone involved.
I can't push. Push mo mukha mong hayop ka. Gusto niyang mag-push, nag-head-to-head sa Yone.
In my view, the most iconic, most beautiful airliner that has ever been made. And it was also an aircraft that had, for the 30 years before this incident, never suffered a
Stupid.
serious accident. Now, again, as with most accidents, several coincidences had to happen to make this tragedy possible, but the investigation revealed that this sign
Mama mo die.
one that was
Ay,
actually
joke lang.
already a known problem,
Nagubad yun.
but one that had previously not caused any big problems. But on the day of this crash, 121 agonizing seconds were all it took to seal the fate of this aircraft and to show just how truly devastating this design weakness could really be. And that taught the industry a lot. Air France Flight 459 was actually a shorter flight. It was scheduled to fly from
Nice.
Paris, France, over towards JFK
BR.
in New York, United States. Once they landed in New York, the passengers, who were mainly German but other nationalities as well,
Ayun lang,
were supposed to
nakombohan.
get onto a cruise ship that would take them down to Ecuador in South America, making this probably a one-in-a-lifetime.
BR, tol!
There was 100 passengers scheduled for the flight, and 6 cabin crew and 3 pilots.
For the love of
The
God!
aircraft was the legendary Aerocontiale BAC Concorde, one of the most beautiful aircraft ever constructed and a feat of engineering. The Concorde first flew on the 2nd of March 1969 and during more than 30 years on the air and never suffered a fatal accident. There are a couple of things that you need to understand technically about the Concorde in order for this to
Nauna siya mag-Sonyas, nag-Sonyas din ako.
with the wind sound.
Ah,
We've
wait.
all seen these beautiful pictures of the Concorde flying with their fantastic
Ang ina, kabado.
and the
Bobo.
reason that the engineers use the delta wing for the Concorde is because the delta wing will work well both in the subsonic, transonic, and
Saan siya pupunta?
supersonic
Bot?
The issue with the delta
Pupus
wing
siya?
is that in order for it to
Yung
provide
Nami,
enough lift
hindi
to
na.
take off the landing, you need to have both very high speed
Ayoko na talaga.
and also a quite high angle of attack. Just to give you an example, a Boeing 737 would generally take off at a speed of around 140 to 160 knots. The Concorde, on the other hand, needs about 200 knots. And this is really important because those type of speeds will put an enormous stress on the tire being used.
Ganda sana kung may ult
In
yung
fact,
Yoni, oh.
the Concorde, during its 30 years,
Parang
of
nag-cheer pa ako sa
operation,
kalaban, eh.
57 tire bursts. 12 of those had caused
Tama na.
issues with the aircraft as pieces of tire had been thrown out towards the other side of the wing. And in 6 cases, the wing tanks had actually been penetrated. The most serious of those incidents happened back in 1979, where a Concorde taking off from Washington to the United States had a tire burst during takeoff. Pieces of the tire penetrated the lower part of the wing and one of the wing tanks, causing a small fuel leak. And also it brought damages to the hydraulic system, making it impossible to track the gear. After that incident, a major investigation was launched into the aerodynamics of the Concorde, and a lot of recommendations were made, mainly towards strengthening of the tires being used and the protection of the hydraulic systems in the landing gear. But there was also some evaluations about the risk of fire. But the investigation team felt that the amount of fuel that would escape
Elder na naman, tol. Dalawang beses na na-elder to.
was relatively small, and the risk of fire was very small. Another thing that you need to understand about the Concorde is that it has a quite complicated fuel system consisting of 13 tanks, 12 of which is housed in the wings and the body of the aircraft, and a 13th tank that is situated towards the very back of the body. And that tank is used as a string tank where the pilot can transfer
Good, nice.
out of the
Patay
tank
yung wing.
where they want the center of gravity of the aircraft to be, which is really important, especially during takeoff. The engines of the Concorde were 4 Olympus twin-spool turbojet engines that were situated towards the back of the delta wing, just outside and slightly behind the main landing gear. They had variable air
Nambak pa yung hayop.
flying supersonic flight, and they also had secondary air intakes on the lower side, slightly behind the main air intake. And those air intakes are actually going to play a quite important role in this story. All of the 4 engines also were equipped with really reheat or afterburner capability, giving the aircraft a further 18% thrust to the takeoff.
Sayang, men.
On the 25th of July 2000.
Uf,
And
elder
all
sila,
those
free elder.
problems. Originally, another Concorde was scheduled to do the flight, but they changed over to this individual during the night. And when the dispatcher started to planning for the flight, he realized that there was a technical issue with
Sayang, tang ina.
specifically to one of the thrust reversers. Now, it was not a problem that would keep the aircraft
36,500.
but it had performance
4 na lang.
and that performance penalty would
300.
eventually lead
Leave na lang
to the need
300 golds.
for a fuel stop en route. On top of that, most of the passengers were German citizens and they
Oof.
had flown in from Germany earlier. And there had been some kind of problems in the aircraft system when it came to checking in both the passengers and the bags. So a lot of the passengers in the bag were actually not on the passenger manifest when the inspector started to load these. He went with this information to the flight crew when they arrived, and the flight crew said that they would take care of the flight planning from that point. The way they did this was they contacted the engineering department and
Gumawa
asked them if they could possibly fix the thrust reverser. They
Gumawa ka ng bagong account? Grabe naman, plus 38 LP. Laki naman ng ano, dagdag. Anong ano na ngayon? Anong rank mo ngayon? Wala ka sa bagong mong account.
They ended up with
Useless jungle.
board and what the load manifest.
Umabot pa ng 48 minutes yung laro namin.
Around 1,400 BBC, that's 1,600 local time in Paris.
Ang hirap pumasa sa mga taga-ibang bansa. Yawa. Gold
And the
2
cruise
na
line
10
consisted
wins.
of a
Ang dali
captain
naman.
who was a 54-year-old male with 13,477
Ang dali mo
hours in total
ano,
time, of which 373
umabot sa gold,
was
ha?
flown on the Concorde. The
Tapos
captain
flex plat.
was scheduled to be the
2
pilot
plat,
flying
2 6
cruise
wins,
lines,
bagong
and
account.
pilot monitoring was done by the
Wow!
first officer. He was a 50-year-old male with
Ano yan?
10,035 hours and 2,698 hours on the Concorde. And he was
Diamond
also a simulator instructor.
Peak ako.
on the Concorde.
Diamond
Running
Peak
the flight deck was
pala.
also a very experienced
Ako
flight
wala.
engineer, 58
Platinum
years
lang ako
old,
last
male, with
season. Hindi na ako nakapaglaro ng maayos eh. Kasi nag-focus ako sa League. I mean sa EK Worlds.
Flight crew, which was typical for the Air France Concorde cruise, which was a very
Pero ngayon,
tight
dinabalance
group
ko na.
consisting of only about 30 pilots. As the flight crew start preparing the
Dapat kanina nag-ano din ako. Dapat nag-stream din ako ng EQ. Pero medyo late na kasi ako kanina. So, hindi ko na lang in-stream. Tapos after ng pictorial namin sa EK Worlds, doon ako nag-stream. League na nang in-stream ito. Wait, magana muna ako. Magre-roll muna tayo ng skin. Baka naman may makuha tayo dito na magugustuhan natin. Ito, re-roll natin to. Iron Katana and then ito lang, Porcelain. Sana makakuha ko ng maganda.
And we tell the crew that he has calculated on a taxi
Di
fuel
ba
burn of
nirely yun, no?
This is later going to turn out to be way too much.
Goods ba to?
At time 14:25,
Ay no, bagong skin to, Debonair. Last year lang ata to. Pero marami na ata akong skin sa Leona or may meron na. Ayoko kasi pa, doble-doble yung skin eh. Awit na yun. May Project Leona na ako. Uy, ayun. Mecha Leona tsaka Project. Mas okay pa itong Project tsaka Mecha kesa sa Debonair. Hayop na yan. Pangit. Sayang ng Ezreal.
If they are able to take an intersection takeoff. But given their very high weight, the captain instead asks to get
Sayang ng Ezreal, gago. Dinis i-reroll ko pa. Sinama ko pa sa reroll. Ito gusto ko sana. Yung sa Zoe. Kasi minsan nagsa-Zoe ako eh. Yung skin ko sa Zoe, yung niya, yung unang skin niya. Yun yung skin ko sa kanya. Binili ko yun eh. Nung may promo sa Garena pa yun. Sa Garena pa. Yung may promo na RP. May free na skin. I mean, hindi pala free skin si Zoe. Binili ko talaga yun. Ito yung Beekeeper. Free to. Bonus to nung mag-top up ka ng RP like 500 plus and above. May Beekeeper sync ka. Tapos yung isa, marami akong bonus skins na nakuha before eh. Ito, yung Eternum Cassiopeia. Nakuha ko din to. Sa bonus RP. If mag-top up ka 500 plus pataas. Marami akong nakuha. Kasi may comp shop din ako before. Nagpapa-event ako palagi. So, yung nire-reward ko, RP. Tapos pag nakapag-pentakill ka, may 50 pesos ka sa akin, ganun. Pentakill, 50 pesos. Quadra kill, 30 pesos. Tapos triple kill, 10 pesos. Ganun yung sa akin. May mga feature pa ako nun, di pinopost ko palagi. May din ako kasi. May group sa PisoNet ko before. Kaya, wala lang. Share ko lang.
Fall off the right-hand engine of the DC-10. There are no indications in the cockpit.
Pero feel ko talaga nauuhaw na kailangan kong inom ng tubig. Wait lang.
Because this happened only a few minutes prior to the Concorde departure, there are no runway inspections that could have picked this up. In fact, in France at the time, there was only mandated 2 runway inspections per day. The Concorde is now taxiing and getting closer to the holding position on Romeo from the 26 right, and the captain was a takeoff briefing. Now this is something that we always tend to do, where we do a little bit of a quick summary of the most important points before we depart. And the captain says, the takeoff is at maximum takeoff weight, 180 tons 100, which means 4 reheats with maximum N2 of 103 and a failure M2 of 98%. Between 0 and 100 knots, I stop for any oral warning and the tire flash.
Sino ba itong nagko-comment sa post ko? Nagko-comment siya tapos siya din naghaha-react sa kanyang comment.
I stop for an engine fire, a tire flash, and a failure call-out. After V1, we will continue on the standard instrument departure as we just talked about, and we'll land back on runway 26 right. So this is the
Awit
pretty
ka,
standard takeoff
kung sino ka man, pero okay lang kasi nagko-comment ka sa post ko, which is I also appreciate.
Takeoff in the low speed regime, which in this case in the
Cogmo.
Concorde is between 0 knots and 100 knots. They basically stop for anything. The gong that they're referring to is what would be equivalent to a master caution warning in a Boeing, which is a oral warning that some kind of failure has occurred. It might not be a critical failure. And then from 100 knots up to V1, they're a little bit more restricted because they're now in the high speed regime of the takeoff. So from that point, they only stop for engine fire warning, failure warning, and in this case also what they call a tire flash. A tire flash is a warning light that comes on if the system feels sudden loss of pressure in one of the tires. Now, in Boeing that I fly, we do not stop for a burst tire above 80 knots. But in the Concorde case,
Practice tayo skill shots.
it's a problem, so it's included in one of those critical failures that they will stop for in the high speed regime. And above V1, they are committed to the takeoff. So all pilots are trained that after V1, if you would reject at that point, you will do a potentially catastrophic runway excursion. So instead, you bring the aircraft
That's
into the
supposed
air.
to be.
throw out the
May
problem,
gusto
and
na
in
ba na
this case,
talaga?
we'll discuss them coming back to land at a very long runway 26 right again in Paris. But as we're about to learn,
Thank you for the
failure
support,
these
guys.
pilots are about to experience is
Okay na ako, si Jomel na nag-i-stream din, nag-follow sa akin. Okay na ako for tonight, kahit ma-lose streak ako. Pero wag naman sana. Dapat may panalo din ako. Ayokong bumalik sa Platinum 4 na tayo.
We've got 800 kilos there. So this would indicate that they're actually using
Dapat
about
panalo na,
1
dapat
mess
panalo.
of taxi fuel. And since they were already at the maximum takeoff weight, using 2 tons of taxi fuel that they're supposed to use, if they've used a ton less, it means that they're now about 800 kilos above maximum takeoff weight. The flight engineer at this point also says, brake temperature checked at 150. The captain asks, is it hotter on the left or the right side? The flight engineer says that it's about the same. And that's going to turn out to be a really important statement for the investigation. At time 1442 UTC, the Concorde was cleared to line up and clear for takeoff on the 26 right. Air traffic control gave them the surface wind of 0903 at 8 knots, and the pilot had not calculated with that much tailwind in their performance calculations. If they would have seen that their maximum takeoff weight had now been reduced to 180 tons rather than just about 185 tons. The limiting factor here would have been the Concorde's tire speed. Because if you take off with tailwind, it's going to bring you up into a higher ground speed before you get enough airspeed to rotate the aircraft. And in this case, the tire speed would be too high. Later investigation showed that
Okay, kailangan na natin mag-focus talaga.
And I also kind of understand it, being a pilot myself. When you line
Ang ganda ng bagong design ng skin ng spectral fiddle sticks. Good. Ang cute ng Victorious Cogmo actually. Really big eyes, violet big eyes, purple. Kung gusto nyo purple.
Things are going to happen really quickly. This is where the 120.
Ngayon lang ulit ako nakakita ng DJ Sona na skin.
At time 14, 42, and 30 seconds, the captain advances the 4 thrust levels in the cockpit towards the takeoff thrust. This causes the 4 mighty Olympus engines to roar into full takeoff thrust with full wing engaged, and the aircraft starts accelerating down the runway. 24 seconds later, the first officer calls out 100, which is then followed by the flight engineer saying 4 greens. This is indicating that each of the 4 go lights that is associated with each engine showing the engine is working normally, and that the 4
In early. Sige, try natin.
6 seconds later, the first
Yung Vex naka Dark Harvest.
and there's now
Aggressive.
no return.
Vex ata to.
About 35 seconds into this flight. At time
Oh, I'll
14:42,
try.
York
Counter Vex.
is noted on the flight data.
Kung magiging aggressive naman talaga siya.
And at this point, when the aircraft passed about 1700 meters, the runway.
Ay, kailan kaya babalik yung gameplay ko talaga sa League. Nag-adjust pa ako eh. Grabing adjust. Ang tagal na.
Within half a second, noise is recorded in the voice recorder, and that's likely coming from the explosion of one of the tires on the left main gear. The reason that the investigators thought so was because at this point in the runway, they could find the metal strip and also pieces of tires. 1 second later, the aircraft has accelerated to a speed of 178 knots, and at this point, about 1,810 meters into the takeoff, a change of noise is heard from the cockpit. What has probably happened here is the pieces of the exploded tire have been thrown up towards the underside of the left-hand wing in the area where fuel tank number 5 is situated. Now those pieces have impacted the wing with such a force that it's actually buckled the underside of the wing inward, and the area around that buckle is a little bit outward, causing an enormous pressure wave inside of the tank.
Oh my
Since
god.
this tank was at this moment completely full, that pressure wave didn't have anywhere to go except pushing further on the area of the tank next to where this piece impacted, causing a rupture outward of the fuel tank. And the reason that the investigators think that this is what happened is because they found pieces of the number 5 fuel tank at this position on the runway. But the pieces indicated that the rupture had happened just inside of the fuel tank and not on the outside. The change of noise that can be heard on the voice recorder is most likely coming from the fact that several dozen liters of fuel is now gushing out through this hole in the number 5 fuel tank. And it has gotten into contact with something that caused it to ignite. What caused the fire to ignite and actually sustain itself
Tagal talaga ng TV ngayon.
is
Ayun.
discussed in the subsequent investigation.
Feel ko lang na matagal.
Most likely, the tire when it exploded caused a breakage of some electrical wires in the left rear exhaust. Now, those broken wires then caused arcing that ignited the flame, and the fact that the landing gear was still extended meant that behind the landing gear there was a turbulence zone that allowed the plane to stabilize and maintain itself without being blown out by the aircraft. What happens now is that the aircraft starts veering towards the left of the runway. The captain counteracts with the right rudder to maintain the front line, and this is not because the engine is off the plane, at least not at this point. Instead, it is likely that this veering moment is coming from the damage made to the left-hand tire, and also because of the aerodynamic drag that the plane is producing behind the aircraft. 2 seconds later, the aircraft is starting to lose thrust from both engine number 1 and 2, so both engines are on fire. In the case of the number 1 engine, it was ingesting a lot of debris from the broken tires, rubber, things like that. And also,
Dahil, nauna pa ako sa minion.
engine number 2, which is the engine that closest to the landing gear, it is because of ingestion of gas. As an engine ingests these gases, it changes the pressure inside of the compressor, and it can lead to compressor stalls, which is what's happening here. The engine is basically choking on the ground. The first officer now calls out, "Watch out!" quickly followed by the flight engineer calling the exact same thing, "Watch out!" And this is likely because the two goal lights for engines 1 and 2 would have extinguished at this point, as they are stalling and not producing the thrust of the force. The aircraft is now at a speed of 187, still 8 knots below the rotation speed. But because both engine 1 and 2 have essentially failed at this point, engine number 1 is slowly recovering, but engine number 2 is back at idle thrust.
Asan
The
siya?
aircraft is starting to yaw very, very hard towards the left. The captain is counteracting this, but the aircraft is still starting to slightly veer off the center line. We don't know why the captain
Killing
decided to
spree.
start rotating.
Galing lang siya namin ah.
Maybe it is because it feels that he's about to exit the runway. Maybe it is to avoid other traffic that he sees further down on the taxiway. We don't know this. But the fact is that he does start to rotate the aircraft, and he rotates slower than he would normally, probably indicating that he's aware that speed is not high enough. As the aircraft is rotating, the flight engineer calls out something that sounds like stop, but it wasn't clear on the voice recorder.
Di wow.
Only a second later, he calls out engine failure, engine number 2. and it's calling only engine failure on engine number
Shit.
2 because engine number 1 is actually starting to recover from those initial stalls.
What?
But as the aircraft continues to rotate and the angle of the nose comes up higher and higher, the airflow changes down the wing, probably causing the hot gases once again to be injected into both engine number 1 and engine number 2. Probably using those secondary engine inlets that we talked about before, and this causes further stalls, which once again reduces the thrust back to near idle in both of these engines. At this point, the first engine fire
Shit.
alarm
Na-burst ako, gago.
and the flight engineer responds to that is calling
My
shut
bad.
down engine number 2, and the captain responds to engine fire.
Dapat nag-skill 1 na lang ako.
As this is happening,
Wala naman
the
siyang
aircraft
flash,
controller
mamamatay pa sana siya sa turret.
out from his viewpoint from control tower. And he calls out, Air France 4590, you have planes trailing behind you. The first officer reads this back. The flight engineer is now doing the engine fire procedure, which means that he is reducing the thrust level back to idle on engine number 2, and he is also pulling and rotating the engine fire handle. This momentarily removes the fire alarm as the extinguisher is likely cooling down the engine, but it soon come back again because of the fact that the fire is not actually in the engine, outside, and the engine fire circuit is just feeling the increase in temperature from the immense fire that is burning outside. While this is happening, and remember, everything that we covered so far is going to take a
The
few seconds.
skills, the skills.
There's another radio call from an unknown aircraft somewhere on the airport. And the pilot there says on the radio, it's really burning, eh? And it's burning, and I'm not sure it's coming from the engine. This is going to be very helpful evidence later on to you. The Concorde is now finally airborne.
Try mo kaya itama skills mo.
Ran over a few edge
Tinatry ko naman, huwag kang ano.
runway.
Huwag kang magmadali
And the
dyan.
crew now faces
Siyempre, pinapaano ko pa yung warm up.
because they rotated at a slightly lower speed than they normally should rotate with, they're now maintaining a speed of 200 knots, while their engine out climb speed is 220. This means that with that airspeed, they won't be able to climb or even maintain altitude. And the first officer points it out by calling speed several times. Engine number 1 is now recovering slightly, but it's heavily damaged and will never get back up to full thrust again. Engine number 2 has been shut down through the engine fire procedure that the flight engineer has just completed. And engine number 3 has gone into something called a contingency mode, which is where they are producing as much thrust as they possibly can in order to counteract the loss of thrust on one or two of the other engines. The Concorde is at now
Third game na pala. Sorry.
with a speed of 200 knots and expanding about 750 feet per minute. And at this point, air traffic control calls me and says, Air France 4590, with large planes trailing behind you, and you have priority to return back to the airfield. The first officer brings this back, and as he's done so, the flight engineer reminds him to take the gear up now. The first officer responds initially no to that, and that's likely because he knows that as a procedure, if there's an indication of damage to the landing gear, the Concorde is not supposed to retract the gear. The damage the captain breaks in and gives correct orders to retract the gear. The first officer
Okay na ba yun, Clark?
It is evident from
Okay na yun, Clark?
voice recorders that he's unable to do so. He just cannot seem to get the gear up. The reason for this is likely because of the damage that has been caused by the fire explosion.
Happy ka na, Clark?
Damage to the landing gear door on the left-hand side, and because of the sequence that
Mamamatay ako dito, may fiddle ata.
follow. If the landing gear door does not move when it's being commanded to do so, the landing gear will stay out. The captain now turns over to the flight engineer and asks him, are you shutting down engine number 2? And the flight engineer responds with, yes, it is shut down. First officer again calls out, airspeed, speed, and then the gear is not
Okay.
retracting.
I can uwi na.
At time 14:43.
Low naman yun. At least tumama yung skills. Ano ba gusto mo?
Commanded to board from the senior flight.
Ang dami mo namang ano.
Likely is caused by the fact that the fire has now been burning
At
for a
least
while
na-kill
and
ko siya,
starting
di ba?
to melt
Mamaya. One hit na natin. One hit combo.
on the left-hand side, which is causing flight control problems. Now the captain is trying to counteract this fall, and meanwhile that is happening, the nose of the aircraft is picking up more and more, and the angle of attack is constantly increasing. The first officer is listening out to the HC frequency, and you can hear how Charlie Gauss power
Ay, wow!
who is telling the fire leader that the Concorde is likely going to return back to facing landing on opposite London. In response to that, he calls out Le Bourget, and we are going to try for Le Bourget. The engine fire alarm is now back again in the cockpit,
Sayang yung
and
ult-
the engine number 1 is surging once again, removing all of the remaining stock.
Hindi prayer meeting to, gago.
This further causes the aircraft to roll over to the left.
Ano yan, YouTube,
and
YouTube
get to
documentary ng ano.
roll angle of 130 degrees left. The DPWF warning system is now found
Documentary ng parang
up,
airplane,
and as
ganun.
that is happening, there is indications that the thrust is being moved back from the remaining on 3 and 4. This is likely to try to counteract the roll and get the aircraft over to wind level in order to be able to
Oh,
get it to continue.
okay ka na ba?
Unfortunately,
Okay na yon,
it's
Clark?
too late.
Are you satisfied with my skills?
14:44 and 21 seconds. The Concorde crashes into a hotel in Brunette.
Are you now satisfied?
As it does so, all 109 people aboard the Concorde perishes together with 4 people in the hotel.
Okay, uwi muna. Item na. Hindi pa din. Sige, papakita ko sa iyo yung mga ibang tricks ko pa. May mga tricks pa ako. I still have up my sleeves.
This was an unspeakable tragedy.
Nag-skill yung ano, hindi naman umabot.
Investigation started immediately.
Mga one hit combo tayo dito.
Investigators started to go through all of the pieces that were left behind the crash. They very quickly found the left landing gear boogie. And when they examined the landing gear boogie, they realized
Uy, wag mo.
that there was
Gago to, ah.
spacer missing. The function of that spacer was to keep the alignment of the tires on the landing gear boogie, and without that spacer in place, the boogie could actually start to wobble up to 3 degrees in any direction. Could that have actually had an impact on the accident sequence? And also, was there anything that the pilot could have done in order to avoid this accident from happening? The first thing that the air accident investigation team started doing when they found out about the missing spacer was trying to find it, because maybe it was somewhere on the track side. But quite quickly, they actually found the spacer in an Air France workshop where the Concorde had undergone some maintenance to that landing boogie just a few days ago. This was a very serious accident.
Oh, happy ka na ba?
The investigation team now needed to understand whether or not this
Ay, gago.
missing spacer could have actually caused
Oh,
or
see?
aggravated the accident. And the way they went about doing this was they had a look at performance.
Panalo to. Panalo to. Pero putang ina nyo.
Would have started to skew during the takeoff run, or indeed during the taxi out. You would be able to see that on the way that the aircraft accelerated during the takeoff. And also remember how the crew talked about the brake temperature.
Ang ina, di umabot skill ko. Sayang, patay sana siya.
Input from both sides. Well, that was the first real clue that the landing gear boogie was actually lying west. These things
Ay, shit.
It would have been skewed that
Shit,
was
katol.
an indication on the brake temperature, potentially flying on the left-hand side. During the takeoff roll, the investigators
I knew you were going. You were going daw.
see if
Bobo
they
mag-English.
had been some kind of pull towards either direction. But they found nothing. And on top of that, the data from the performance manual of the Concorde
Clark,
is very close
hey,
to
Gogo.
the actual performance of the aircraft during the takeoff roll. And that would indicate that this during the takeoff roll initially before they ran over
Kawawa.
the script, there was no extra drag coming from the left wheel boogie. So the alignment seems to have been good all the way up until the aircraft crossed over that metal strip and
Wala kang minion.
together,
Ay, wala, ba't minamatay ito? Zero over 3 ka naman sa skills at sabihin, ha? Paano ano yun? Paano 0 over 3, ha?
The investigation team now turned
Hindi mo ba nakikita? Nakombo ko yung ano.
And when they visited Continental Airlines and they went through the maintenance history of this piece of plan, they recognized that this support metal strip had actually
Absolute
been replaced
cinema.
not once but twice within the previous
Ah, diba?
months. And when they look at it, they realize that the metal
Bilib ka
strip
na ba,
itself
Clark?
has not been manufactured according to the engine manufacturer instructions. It had
Oh, di ba, may nakita ka na din.
drilled
Nakikita mo na yung
37
totoo
times
kong
rather than 12 times that was stipulated
gameplay.
by the engine manufacturer. And the
Di ba?
metal
5-0,
strip next
5
to it was
5-0,
actually a little
surrender.
too long.
Oh my
And that was what
God.
was causing this metal strip to be constantly wore down, and probably also the reason that it fell off in the first place. These findings led to quite a lot of litigation and legal issues between the French authorities and
Siyempre,
the airlines.
honor lahat
That
yan,
did not
nanalo eh.
continue to happen. Instead,
Si Gidaro, gago online pa din si Gidaro. Nakalock in sa League of Legends.
The air investigation team very quickly realized that the pilots had never been trained for a scenario like this, where they would lose both
Parang
engines
ganti
on
ko
one
last game.
side
Oh, hindi
and
naman, nag-explain lang ako
immediately
kanina.
on top of that, fire. Since the aircraft had accelerated
Nag-explain
past
lang
their
ako.
decision speed of V1 when they ran over the metal strip and the fire exploded, the crew was
Tangina,
essentially
three.
permitted to take off from that point. If they would have
Ayan na
decided
naman yung
to
3
get
ads.
the takeoff, it is
Hayaan mo na kasi
highly
yan.
likely that the aircraft would
Bigay
have
mo na sa akin
high
yan.
speed,
Kahit yan na lang.
runway overrun, which would have led to a land gear collapse, and that together with the already burning fire would have
Sesend ko sa
all
sesend ko sa
led
GC.
to,
Papakita ko sa kanila naka-lock in.
So the fact that they continued the takeoff and brought the aircraft into the air was completely understandable. Once they were in the air, they effectively lacked enough thrust to get the aircraft to accelerate up to any sustainable climb speed or climb, given that they couldn't retract the gear.
Naka-lock in
And the fact that they
si,
couldn't
ano,
retract the gear was probably
si Gidar.
what was maintaining
Oh, thank you for the
flame
follow,
outside
El
the
Manok.
plane.
El
So
Manok?
even if the pilots would have been able to keep the aircraft
Salamat sa follow, El Manok. Grabe talaga mga pangalan ng mga Pinoy eh. El Manok. Salamat sa follow. By the way, good morning pala. This is my fourth, pang-apat na to. Mag-aapat na. Dalawang talo, isang panalo. Isang panalo. Isang panalo. Wala akong narinig sa pinagsasabi mo na nag-ads.
Many times and was likely to potentially happen again was the cause of this catastrophic and unreversible tragedy. And because of that,
Siyempre naman. Ganyang pangalan ba naman? Hindi pa mababasa ng maayos. El Manok.
until some serious improvements.
Ay, naku po.
These improvements included things like Kevlar lining inside of fuel tanks to make sure that even if
Welcome pala sa stream, bro. Welcome sa stream. Kahit hindi ako masyado magaling, pero alam ko magaling ako. Si Clark lang talaga yung bobo dito. Tsaka yung mga taga-ibang lugar na nasasama sa laro. Buisit. Nakakaiyak. I mean, sila yung umiiyak. Kaya nakakaiyak na lang din. Konting baog lang sa ling. Tiyak na agad, surrender eh. Hayop. Yung SACMA ang ina mo, gago ka. Gago ka talaga, Clark. Munti ka na yun ah. Muntik na mabasa.
Retired the last Concorde on the 24th of October 2003, marking the end, at least for now, for passenger supersonic flight.
Uy,
The next video is about the most recent of these three events, and definitely also the most mysterious. The disappearance of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370. I made this
ano
video
pa ba
because
pwede
I
nating,
believe there is good
ay di na,
reason why the
ano na eh.
search for
Ito na lang,
wreckage of the
mystery
flight
icon na
must
lang.
start again. But going beyond that, a key takeaway
Oblivion?
is also that
Wala pa ba ako
10
nito?
years after MH370
Parang ang tagal naman na nito ng
we
icon
now
na to.
have the technology
Hindi ko pa nakukuha to.
to make sure this type of disappearance
Eto, ano to?
never be
Emote?
possible again.
What is this?
This is the story of Malaysia Airlines flight 370.
Monswu Miosant. I don't know what that means. Twisted Fate. Twisted Fate kita mamaya. Kung ano na lang yun. Ito yung mga ano ba to? Nakalimutan ko ang tawag dito. Ah, Eternals pala. Hindi ako ano nito.
Up to Beijing International, China.
Di ako fan neto.
Late start time,
Kahit
it
nga yung
was
ano,
supposed to be a quite
yung di
nice
ba yung level 5, level 6, pag nag level 6 to level 7 ka, meron kang i-craft before, di ba? Bago mag level 6 or level 7 yung ano mo, yung champion na ginagamit mo lagi. Pero yung pinapa level 6 ko before, para malito yung mga kalaban, na para if na ini-stock nila yung account mo, ano, yung mga champion na hindi ko ginagamit or hindi ko talaga ginagamit sa mga pustahan, mga ganun, mga Vayne, yun yung pinapa level 6 ko. Tagal na yung tanda, gago. Para malito yung mga kalaban ko, especially pag nagpupustahan kami, yung mga pinapa-level 6 ko ng mga champions, yung mga minsan ko lang ginagamit. Like Vayne, mga ganun. Mage, ano ako, EP user ako before eh. Pero mostly ng mga champion before, nagagamit ko like 10 games straight, mga ganun. Kasi tinatry ko lahat para malaman ko yung mga timing ng skills nila. Like Dota times lang. Sino nagtanong? Yan na naman sasabihin ng hayop ka. Wala kang kwenta kausap. Uy, alam nyo, merong sumusuporta talaga sa ano. So pag nagpo-post ako ng league content na ano, like nag-i-stream ako, ganun, may nagko-comment talaga. Which is I really appreciate. Pero may mga siraulo din nagko-comment, like mga nagre-react din. Hindi mo kasi ako kakampi. Tara laro. Oh, si Corinne Alvarez, babae yung picture niya. Sige, sama tayo next game. Para may kasama naman ako. Kasi pag si Clark kasama ko, bobo naman eh. Palagi yung binubuhat. Ang hirap kasama. Crush ka ata niyan. Hindi ko nga alam kung babae talaga to eh. Hindi na natin masisigurado ngayon yung Facebook kung babae talaga na-encounter natin eh. Sa panahon ngayon, kailangan na talaga ng ano, na proof. Hindi si Clark crush ka. Si Clark ba? Oo, si Clark crush ako niyan ni Clark matagal na. Di ba, Clark? Aminin mo na, wala. Tayo lang naman dito ni El Manok eh. Tatlo lang tayo dito, aminin mo na.
This simulator would later be investigated further. It had been erased weeks before the flight, but the investigators still found some manually and waypoints
Veigar.
in a backup memory, but without...
We're gonna do Veigar na naman.
In any case, the captain had stable finances, no known illnesses, and was regarded as a solid, reliable member of his community. In terms of his aviation career, it had started when he was accepted into a sponsored program for Malaysian Airlines already back in 1981. He completed his licenses and then started flying for them back in 1983. He then worked his way up the ranks, starting on the Fokker F-27, then 737-200, Airbus A300, and finally he got his first command on the Fokker 50. This was then followed by command on the 737-400 and the Airbus A330. Actually, on my birthday, the 22nd of September 1998, he received his command on the Boeing 777, which he then continued to operate until the day of his flight. His good track record and seniority eventually gave him the opportunity to also become a type-rated instructor as well as an examiner on this type. And it was in this capacity that he was going to operate Malaysian Airlines flight.
Magaling kasi yan mag-gok-gok. Gago.
He had a total experience of just over 80,000.
Binaliktad mo, hayop ka.
8,659 of those have been flown only on 777.
Ay, ito na naman. May taga-ibang bansa na naman nakasama. Nagchichintong na naman. Oh, ayun. Nag-left. Gago.
He'd been flying initially on the Boeing 777-400. He then changed over to the Airbus A330 fleet in 2012 and then on to the Boeing 777 in November 2013, just a few months before his flight. And this was obviously why he was still in training. He had a total experience of just over 2,800 hours and very little, only 39 hours.
Madalas ka ba mag-EQ? Oo. Main ko na stream is EQ. Pero I am planning to balance my streaming of EQ and League. Pero mostly talaga ngayon, sa ngayon, EQ ako. Isa EQ yung ini-stream ko. Tapos mostly din araw-araw. Online ako paggabi. Naka-AFK lang or gumagawa ng set. Ganun. So you're not viewing my stream dahil sa League. EQ player ka, El Manok. I thought na punta ka dito sa stream ko dahil sa League. EQ player ka din. Minsan kami magkasama ni Clarky AFK sa bahay lang o ganun, or sa Battle Lord or sa Yugar 696 time, kahit saan, minsan.
And it was in perfect working condition according to the tech log. The only point of interest was that the flight crew oxygen cylinder had been topped up just prior to the flight, but this was a routine mistake. Now, there are numerous systems aboard this aircraft that will become important for this story, and in order to explain it, I will have to become quite technical in some places, but also that's kind of what we do here on the channel.
Coincidence lang, nga lang looking for League. Okay. Okay. Tapos Ilonggo. Ilonggo. Ilonggo ka man. Ilonggo Hiligay nun. I'm not really sure kung ano ko sa duwa. Pwede Hiligay nun. Hiligay. Taga-Addis ko eh. Taga-Addis Bacolod. Ano. Pero ga-EQ ka man. What did you ask about EQ kung League yung hinahanap mo kanina? Or dahil sa hashtag? Or sa recent ko ng mga streams nakita mo? Ang tagal na tuloy ng queuing, 7 minutes na hayop. Tinignan ko accounts mo. Okay. Stalker. Ay, hindi naman, joke lang. Sardon yung account ko sa AQ. Dapat nga magano na ako eh. Mag-change name na din ako dito sa sa League, kasi pag Ilonggo ka or Hiligay nun, alam mo tong meaning ng ng IGN, medyo bastos to eh. Kaya yes, jungle na naman. Ang inang buhay to, gusto ko mag-mid eh. Nakikita ko na naman yung lisin. I think maglilisin na naman ako. Papakita ko na naman yung playstyle ko sa lisin sa inyo. Madaling araw. Gusto nyo ba yun? Do you wanna see me play lisin? Kaso medyo nakainom ako eh. Baka kung saan mapunta yung skill 1 ko. May hunch na ako na Ilonggo dahil sa IGN, tapos nakita ko sa tag. I see. Pwede naman ako pwede mo ko mag-Ilonggo kaso nga lang, may mga viewers na kasi hindi nakaintindi Ilonggo, so need natin mag-Tagalog. Tapos minsan din English, kasi pag EQ yung stream ko, may mga taga-ibang bansa nanonood ng stream ko, so yeah, sometimes we try to use the language of speaking in English. That's why wala na, bawal na mag-English kasi basig madrain na gid ko, wala na takaroon ihatag di sa hampang di sa sa League. The useless trash. What the hell? Alam niya. So I think hindi natin option yung leasing kasi may tres. Pero kung bobo yung tres, pero hindi naman natin alam na bobo to, we may not gonna be picking leasing. Pero it depends kung may combo dito sa kasama natin. Pero yung Naafiri, hindi ko pa talaga ito nagagamit, pero at the same time hindi din ako curious, hindi din ako interesado gamitin tong hype na to. Vi, men. Why, Vi? Nakakaumay kalaban yung Vi. Okay lang anong Vi yan. You wanna see me? You wanna see me rolling? Gago ka, ha?
They were identified as Iranians who were most likely looking for refugee status and were not considered as threats. None of the other passengers raised any type of suspicion. This means that in total there were 230
Mag-head-to-head tayong hayop ka.
the giant Boeing 777 lined up.
Ba't ako nag-trend? Oh! Na-ferry ang puta.
At 40 minutes and 37 seconds past midnight.
So, sino yung bot? Tres tsaka Lux?
Destination Airlines Flight 376 take. The first officer was at the controls at this point and had therefore handed over the radio to the captain, and after the engine
Pero di ba may mga ano din? Tagalog na tuloy. May mga Ilonggo gid di ba yung stream tapos gamba ilagay dya magamba sila Ilonggo gid dya wala sila yung Tagalog ug English. Di ba? May ara gid dya. May ara ko kita ga ano gid dya ga Bisaya gid sa magamba. Pero sa Facebook sa stream wala lang ko idea kung ga cross stream siya sa Twitch.
Once he called up and identified himself,
Kaya per may ginampang ano do inaswang mga jump scare tapos Dota 2 mga palit na lipat ko sa pangalan niya eh.
It's pretty common that controllers give clearances like this, especially at night when there's typically less traffic and therefore easier to give these kind of directives. The captain just read back the clearance and then selected Bugatti as the active waypoint in the FSC. The first officer would have then verified it, told him to execute the routing and then selected
El Manok,
one
di-EQ ka man before?
control
First
by
mo?
the captain to verify. Just
First mong una
they
lang.
had done thousands of times before. At this stage of the flight, everything was still completely normal, and when you listen to the ATC tape, the voice level of the captain is completely relaxed and routine. The aircraft continued its climb towards Rigari, and they were eventually changed over to the next frequency, Lumpur radar on 132.6. This was going to be controlled and looking after them until they reached Rigari and the FIR boundary towards Vietnam.
70, Hotel Florida, 13269.
The captain read back this handover more or less
Uy, yung ano
exactly as
pala.
it should by confirming
Nanonood kayo solo leveling. Gogo, wala daw announcement for ano. Wala daw announcement for season 3. Pero may napanood tuloy. May nakita naman akong post before matapos yung episode 12 or episode 24 or 25 ba yun? Yung basta yung last episode. Before ko nakita yun, may nakita kong there will be season 3 pero nakita ko lang naman kanina. Nag-post wala daw. Hindi ko na alam kung ano yung legit eh. Pero wala tayong magagawa kung walang season 3, no? Depends naman sa kanila yan. Sa budget. Katina, dalonggan ko. Dalonggan.
It is dependent on a small radio transmitter known as a transponder on board the aircraft. And this transponder will be identified by a 4-letter numerical code with numbers from 0 to 7. Remember, that was the code that the first officer received earlier as part of the departure clearance. Now there are 2 transponders on board the aircraft, and the active one will, when it's activated by the pilot, send aircraft controlling loads of information like position, altitude, speed, and even MCP selections in some cases.
Hanya.
The transponders also
Yung IG ng isa rin. Tag-ibang bansa ito ata. I need my coffee. Ako, I need my red horse. Nabitin ako kanina. Hayop. May pictorial kasi kanina si EQ eh. Nalit pa ako ng 1 hour. Buti na lang may mga nag-stay pa dun sa bahay kaya nakapag-tiktok pa.
And this brings us to the primary radar, which is an invention that has been with us for a very long time. In its essence, it works on a simple idea of sending out radio pulse and then measuring any waves that might hit a target and then bounce back to the receiver. The direction of those returning waves that are coming from will be there towards the target. Obviously, this technology has become much more refined since it was first invented, making it much more complex, but you get the general idea. This type of radar can be used to see things that are not
Uy,
transmitted
sayang isang atake.
militarily, and
Na-cancel
therefore
ko.
often used by the military. But given the nature of shortwave radio signals, this type of radar has a quite limited range and cannot accurately track altitude and speed very well, something that will become important to see. At 1 minute and 14 seconds past 1 in the morning, the captain of Malaysian Flight 370 called up the Lumpur area controller to advise him that they were now level on Flight 350.
Mga ilong gago pala ako. Gago. Gago ka talaga,
This
Clark.
was acknowledged by the controller, but this was not
Report mo nga yan.
call made by the captain. It was more of a courtesy thing, but
Ikaw nga, Tagalog eh.
sound of his voice that he was relaxed when he made his call. From the way that his information kind of dropped towards the end.
Uy. Ganda ng yaso namin
And
ah.
from here on,
At first blood yung sayo na.
the first indication of something
Good sign ba to?
Now, I want to make it absolutely clear that nothing in the final report is highlighted that whatever happened started as early as here, but I personally reacted to something that was just briefly mentioned in the report. You see, about 7 minutes after the captain called in, at the level of like 350, the called up
Patayin ulit natin yung sayo.
the very same thing. In the report, this was highlighted as anomalous, but the experts didn't think that it was worth paying attention to, but I disagree. You see, we pilots sent the nation's extra calls for two different reasons.
Ah,
The first is
You died.
like I said earlier, this was not a mandatory call to make. The other reason
Ngayon mo lang narinig yung Tagalog.
maybe because we have
Be surprised dahil marami pa kaming alam.
something else, and we just want to make sure that
Tagalog, Ilonggago,
you see, if we make that call,
Bisayawa,
we receive this response, Roger,
Hiligaynon.
well, I would know that they haven't been called. If they would have, they would now repeat.
Diba, additional yan sa ano mo.
So with that in mind, there were 7 minutes between the first call and the second call, which means that something might have happened to
Uwi
take
muna
it
ako.
away from the between those calls. The other thing that I reacted to was the tone of voice of the captain.
I'm gonna bite you. Hindi, joke lang.
Again, the
Nag-CS pa nga eh.
report said that they couldn't detect any stress in the voice of the recording, but what I'm hearing is a clear difference in pitch between the first and the second call. In the first, the captain sounds relaxed.
Warden.
Information towards the end. And in the second, he just sounds busy, like he's working on something at the same time that he's making that call.
Ba't ngayon niya lang ginamit yung lens niya? Hayop ka.
This, the sound of work, is something that I often hear in simulators as well as in training in the aircraft, and that's why I reacted to it so early. Anyway, as expected, the controller just responded with
Tol, tayo pa tuloy na agrabyado. Hayop.
this doesn't have to mean anything. I don't want to speculate in further in this detail, but I thought it was worth highlight given what seen out there. So the aircraft continued its clear track up toward the Guardian, and within minutes,
Nag-backdoor na lang siya.
the ACARS sent out its last complete routine message by SAT down to ground station. After this, there will be a complete silence from the aircraft.
Patayin natin yan.
1 hour and 17 minutes. This detail is super important because it tells us a lot about what might happen in the cockpit, but we'll get back to that soon. At time 01:19 and 24 seconds, the Lumpur area controller instructed Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 to contact Kuching control on
Okay lang. Okay lang tayo kung hindi natin makuha yung ano, yung Dragon. Yung Void Grabs yung unahin natin.
This happened about 1 minute before the aircraft flew past the Gadi, so it was still technically in Malaysian airspace, but will soon pass into Vietnam. And this is where the very last radio transmission occurred from Flight 370, with the captain still answering.
yan. Regine Velasquez lang naman yung ano eh.
For some
Yung
people,
dragon na
that
yun eh.
might have sounded like a ominous farewell, but what I heard was once again someone who was
And then
so
we're gonna get
disinfected that it didn't complete
his
the
blue.
correctly.
Wala.
Like I mentioned before, all frequencies
Eh, dito
were
na
given
lang.
must always be read back to avoid mistakes, but that was not done in this call. In any case, now things started happening very quickly. 5 seconds after the aircraft flew past the guard, the mode S functionality of the transponder of the part with that extra information was suddenly switched off. Now the only way to switch off all the is to turn the transponder node to the cockpit from TARA to the output off position. A technical malfunction would have removed all signals completely and immediately, but in this case, it took
Hindi siya
another
papakita
37
yung VIA.
seconds for the secondary radar return to completely disappear. And as it did, the aircraft abruptly stopped following the back route. We know this because the primary radar record turned, and what it registered was that after the initial right turn towards the point for retron, the aircraft had started a sharp, almost 180-degree left turn instead. Now, Boeing tried to correct
Uy.
this turn similarly, but weren't able to match up the turn and the timing perfectly. The only simulation that got close included a manually flowing turn, meaning that autopilot must have been disconnected. And why is that, you might ask? Well,
Yung
the
by-
autopilot will only allow certain bank angles, and this turn was so tight that a much steeper bank must have been used at this partly to turn toward the competition. The only reasonable conclusion that can be drawn from this is that someone had now started interfering with the flight trajectory on purpose. The timing and precision of where all of it took place
Uy!
also looks
Uy,
off.
uy, uy, yung mid.
Igari was performed just
Shit.
before the FIR boundary between Malaysia and Vietnam, which meant that the controller from the new country
Nagraran kasi about sa mana yun tuloy.
But the Malaysian controller, which formally still had the responsibility, has handed the aircraft over, and the aircraft probably didn't monitor it too closely. And the new controller would likely wait until the aircraft called them up before starting to pay much attention to it, which is also exactly what happened. Given this, it was the perfect place to initiate this maneuver if the intention was to try to avoid detection. And now you might ask, why this
Uy, wag na.
Why not just complete the turn? Well, just to the north of the guide, Thailand has something like some air defense identification, which on the pilot chart shows up as two dotted parallel vertical lines.
Mapapatay ba yun?
As the
Sa all?
name suggests, the Thai military have been monitoring any traffic.
Another useless. Sorry lang naman.
Properly identified as working transponder.
Killing
and
sila din niya.
followed by flight path.
Akala ko may DPS, may ano to. May DOT. Wala pala. One time damage lang pala to. Ayop naman. Akala ko mamamatay eh. Gumamit ng trundle, di alam yung skills. Bobo. Patay na itong hyena. Hyena. Patay natin. Ay, wag na, joke lang. O, di ba dati DOT to? Ang tanda ko na talaga, puta. Hindi na updated. Umuwi ka na, Paul. Huwag mo nang pilitin.
Now, since these radar echoes were only active on raw radar, it was impossible to get any reliable speed or altitude data from them. It is possible that the aircraft descended slightly during this segment, maybe to gain a higher true airspeed as
Wala akong ano.
This theory was further corroborated by the fact that certain mobile national island of Command usually detects the mobile phone signal, which was later confirmed as phone itself on this phone. Those type of
Kawawa yung vibe.
generally have a very limited target range, maximum around 30,000 feet and often much lower than that. But given that atmospheric conditions have huge impact on the range, it's very hard to speculate. But since turning off the mobile phone is a checklist item in most airlines, this could indicate that the first officer was trying to communicate.
Uy, ba't di mo yun? Sige, tigas ko na lang.
And the signal was only detected for a very short while. But what is really intriguing during this segment,
Kaya ka mo na yung sayon, walang bigas yan.
already talked about a little bit,
Ang boring naman kalaban pag ganyan.
you see, the SATCOM sends out regular interrogations every hour with no other information to transmit. And when the ground-based station tried to update the ACOS message at the time 3 minutes past 2 in the
Ay,
morning, it
gago.
didn't receive any
Huh?
acknowledgement back from the aircraft SATCOM.
Ha?
So, what does that mean? Well, if the ACOS system
Eh.
was
Ay, gago, bumalik.
off or failed,
Tanga.
the link
Nakita ko na nga yun eh.
it would just communicate the fact that ACOS isn't working. And if the system was manually lost in the cockpit, this was also be shown in that log. And because
Inilagan ko na nga, bobo.
the reason this satellite lost was a power failure to the system itself. Now, this system
Alam ko na nga yung diskarte niya. Bumalik pa ako. Bobo. Bobo na kamay, bobo na kamay.
Some incredibly experienced Boeing 777 pilots with excellent
May
work.
sumusunod sa utak yung kamay ko eh.
By the way, to believe that whoever was in charge of the aircraft after that initial turn must have manually turned off all of the sources. This can be done by deselecting both the primary and backup generators from their buses using buttons to overhead panel. Often, the aircraft will
Hindi ako lasing, ganito lang ako pag ano, kulang sa inom.
replace their system. So, the person in charge would then put the
Baliktad.
on level of the
La, grabe, go na go sila ah.
If that would happen, that would then trigger the ground air turbine, the route, to be activated either manually or automatically.
Ay.
It is supposed to provide electrical power to the critical systems like primary flight systems, navigation replacement, navigation equipment, but not the autopilots. Hydraulic movement of the flight control system.
Oh, wala akong ano, objective na dragon ah.
Hydraulics, so moving the aircraft
Asan
manually
eh?
is still part of the fun. Now, of course,
Iniiwan ng ano, Alistair yung ano, ba't nasa tops ah? Wala naman kwenta kalaban yan. Backdoor lang naman.
Slightly, but this would make things very different for both the crew and the passengers in the back. And while we're on the subject of passengers and crew, I want to point out here that we really have no idea about
Kunin mo Blue Jinx. Para may pambigay ka sa kalaban mamaya kung mamatay ka.
the pedals in charge might have depressurized the cabin in order to get everyone into their seats and keep them under control. This is possible to do by just opening the outflow valves manually but still keeping the
Push.
aircraft running.
Bumawi ka, Jinx.
Kept running would provide heating and make it bearable in cockpit as it otherwise would become freezing cold almost immediately. The passenger oxygen mask would then be dropped in the back, but the oxygen generator system would only last about 22 minutes or so. But the oxygen cylinder, which is providing the cockpit with oxygen, would last up to 27 hours in case there's only one person using it. And it had, as I mentioned before, been test up just that morning. This means that if the cabin is kept on pressure,
Nakakaputang ina ka, I'm back.
completely incapacitated once the oxygen generator.
Ayoko sa'yo. Sakit mo.
But whoever
Lethality pala sa... Lethality science pala to. Kaya masakit eh. Gago.
the time of use
Tumatalsik na yung laway ko.
35,000 feet,
Akin yung aso na yan.
extending to a few minutes at 30,000 feet. And anyone suggesting
Sayang.
those altitudes
Hindi ko
without
nakubera ng ano.
would after that not be able to take any rational decisions and soon become unconscious. After that, if no oxygen would be provided, it would take another 20 minutes or so until death would occur.
Go Sayon. Sayon ang ina mo.
But like I said before, we don't know for a fact what happened, and we won't know more until the aircraft is found, which is why it is so important that we continue the search. Now, flying an aircraft at these altitudes manually without possibly wearing oxygen mask and with only rudimentary navigation available would be quite tiring, and that's likely why the radar imaging is showing this. Anyway, at this stage, the aircraft continues to be tracked by both civilian and military
Run!
as it continues its way around the south of Penang, where it starts turning right to the Malacca Strait. There were temporary lapses in the radar coverage, but all in all, it painted a fairly clear picture of an aircraft flying in a controlled way and not in any way wrong. So, why wasn't the aircraft intercepted or tracked more closely then? Well, this was due to the combination of factors and misunderstandings between the aircraft. operations controllers in the aircraft.
Ha? Tang ina mo, gago ka.
Disappeared from radar. It took around 20 minutes before the engineer controller forecast
Ang ina, bobo ko talaga mag-snipe kahit sa Wild Rift. Bobo ko pa rin mag-snipe.
was.
Bobo na lang lahat-lahat.
Longer than a standard 5 minutes should take before a query is sent, but like I mentioned before, this happened at the intersection between two different countries in the middle of the night, so it's likely that the controllers
Incoming po.
didn't monitor the situation closely. When the Malaysian controller was still technically responsible for the flight and aware of the missing aircraft, he eventually contacted Malaysian Airlines, who confirmed that they could see the aircraft flying up to Cambodia. This meant that the air traffic controllers now started contacting the college.
Yung Alistar namin, na-tour niya na yung buong mapa in 17 minutes.
And this in turn,
Tingnan mo.
that none of
Ayaw niya.
saw the lonely train radar
Jinx!
aircraft traveling southwest instead.
Likot dahil.
It was later found out that the Malaysian Airlines tracking software was based on the position of the aircraft on
Hindi ko alam kung ano trip na.
it didn't receive any data. And that's what caused that initial confusion.
Tangina talaga, hindi ko alam ano trip ng mga kasama ko.
Since it wasn't violating the airspace, they assumed it was just a normal air combat. They didn't
Tangina ka.
send anyone out.
Agay, agay!
It was only later with the help of
Muntik pa ako dun, ah.
that the picture of an A370
Ay, patay na pala yung isa yun.
After the aircraft had turned right up towards the northwest, it looked like it was heading towards the waypoint for the family. The SATCOM system still had not logged on at the stage, so we can assume that the aircraft was still flying in a power-degraded state, possibly only with the Brahma turbine as power source. But even if that was the case, navigation is still not the problem. The big
Let's
problem
go.
with the war was
Let's
still
go,
very
mid.
limited.
Push tayo kasi magde-defense sila sa top
All
lane.
navigation to find Monkey, and the waypoint was
It's CS time!
the aircraft navigation in place. Whoever was planning this point to know what Monkey was soon lost, and the now more and more faint radar effort continued flying up in the general
Sino pa namatay? Gago, may namatay pa.
towards another waypoint towards the Mika. And it's soon after the aircraft passed slightly to the south of that waypoint, at time 02, 22, and 12 seconds, that all conventional radar traces from this flight completely disappeared. Now there is a real possibility that there were military radar picking up signals from this aircraft for longer than this, but given the sensitivity around shoring military capability or precision from mobile radar, we haven't seen any such information before. So this means that from this point onwards, we're now going into the runway without any speculation.
Tara. Ay, gago, Arded to. Sayang.
Try to stay with what we do know. In order to further track these aircraft, the investigators, scientific community, and several commercial companies had to start
Oh, di naman nag-ult yung yaso.
new ways. And a great example of this is the Inmarsat data. Inmarsat is, as the name suggests, a company of
Run, bitch.
communication services, and it was through their satellite
Gago ka.
the aircraft 8 calls before
Uy!
the signals
Muntik
these
pa.
satellites were sending were never designed to track aircraft, but since there were signals that changed to
Let's
them
go.
vicinity, those signals could be reverse engineered to provide a true singular position indicator every time that it appeared. The way this was done was basically by limiting certain parts of the GPS system.
Run!
This is each GPS satellite is basically an extremely accurate timing.
Ewan ko pangit ng laro na to.
Your phone or
Walang
this
thrill.
or 777 connects to one of them, the GPS satellite transmits a quick signal, which basically says, this is where I am and this is how now. That signal travels at speed of
Magpo-push type na lang ba ako? Ito na lang, oh. Patigas muna konti.
That time,
Para medyo kupal tayo.
determine how far away you are from that GPS satellite. And with the satellite position and your distance from it, we can determine that you are somewhere along the your words right now are apart.
Isang jet na plane ang bumagsak sa Lingayen, Pangasinan.
Teta, doon na. Para early. Ano, gago ka.
What's another one? You've got one. Really, the rest of them were.
Ang ina. Sige, ito na lang. Ask you do, aha? Tingnan mo, gawin pa. Patayin namin daw yung ano, action ba to? Kasi ano ba itong pangalan hat na to? Ano ba pangalan lang? Hindi ko mabasa. Dito nga, isang pagkakamali lang, matatalo pa kami. Nahihirapan kami dito sa sali pag nakapag-item pa to ng ano. Naset kami, gogo. Nasetan kami kanina. Atakhan? Ganyan pangalan niya. Baduy naman, Atakhan. Run! Kita mo, pinadragon lang kaming hype na yan. Maaga pa to. Ay, gogo, dalawa lang tayo. Ha? Agay! Agay ko, sakit niyan. Uy, wag! Matrix total. Hindi. Pag babasahin, atakan na. Kung babasahin pala, okay. Hindi kasi nakikita pangalan niya dito eh. So, pangalan na dyan.
The brand new Mega Cruiser Norwegian Breakaway is the largest vessel ever to call New York City home.
Grabe naman na ping yan. OA.
146,000
Sakit sa tenga, gago ka.
She's more than 3 times the size of Titanic and one of the 10 biggest cruise ships in the world.
Sige, 1-on-1 ka dyan.
Carrying up to 4,000 passengers and
O, bigyan kita red. Patakayin mo. May burn na yan. Aba. Ah. Nag-flash.
Breakaway has a whopping
Kinabahan eh.
more than any other ship at sea.
Oo, BR tayo. Wait lang.
The galley serves 1,000 meals an hour. There's a Vegas-style casino. 2 full-scale theaters, even for the most on Broadway. And 22 bars and lounges round off the venues that make Breakaway a ship for people who
Oops.
like to eat, drink, and have fun. She has both the fastest and the most waterfalls at sea. Some come to heat up, others to cool down.
Ang sakit talaga. Masakit talaga yung hyena na yan, oh. Buisit.
Kevin Sheehan is Norwegian Cruise Line CEO. Breakaway is his baby.
You just get that feeling that this is the ship that will become the ship of the future. Everybody is working like a well-oiled machine.
He gambled $900 million to build it despite a weak tourist economy.
Anong skill ng ano yun? Nag-skill sa bato yung swim. Okay na inang yun. Pumasok ka. Swim. Nahihiya yung swim pumasok, pre. Ayun na, gago, sabog. Ngayon lang siya pumasok. Kanina ang ano, HP na yung kalaban.
4,000 tickets were found quickly for a ship that didn't even exist.
Ay, naku po.
It would be up to one of the most advanced shipyards in the world to make Breakaway a reality.
Ay, naka. Uy.
Breakaway's story begins in Hockenberg, Germany,
Utang na yun na.
home to Meyerberg Shipbuilders, a sprawling complex with
Adik
3,000
eh.
employees.
Adik eh.
This
Isa
shipyard
talaga
has
pumatay eh.
35 of the most luxurious cruise ships afloat. Meyerberg
Oh, catcher.
has two of the world's largest covered dry docks. One of them is half a kilometer long.
Ayan na din sumunod. Hindi ko pa nakikita nag-combo yung Alistar tsaka Yasuo. Wala pa kahit isang beses. O hindi ko lang nakita, ewan ko lang.
Meyerberg has been building ships since 1795 and is a legend among shipbuilders.
I'm the sixth generation. My son is now starting the seventh generation. And it's still a family company.
Yung Jinx may damage naman, pero parang ang boring niya gumalaw.
But in the fall of 2011, Meyerberg is preparing for its
Parang
greatest
apaka-play niya talaga.
Norwegian Breakaway will not only be the shipyard's biggest build, it will also be the fastest. With a schedule of just 18 months, it's a feat no shipyard has ever accomplished.
This ship is very, very fast.
Tingnan mo. Hindi ko alam kung ano information namin.
Christopher Carlson is in charge of the build for Norwegian Cruise Lines. Breakaway must be built
Grabe naman
6
ping
times
yan,
faster
Alistar.
than any cruise ship in history.
I see that this one is the only way to look extremely good. Absolutely fantastic. Of course, it was said that this is the only economic special. This is just the beauty of very minor.
It's Chris's job to ensure that Breakaway is completed on time.
The day is totally an opposite question because we have to deliver in time.
This record-breaking
Oh, gago.
is under
Klaseng word yan.
pressure from Norwegian Cruise Line CEO Kevin Sheehan.
The first step that I've been around from the very beginning of the design and from beginning to end.
Uy, gago, may void dyan.
New York ship and all of the different features here have my signature to them.
The 18-month countdown for Breakaway's first voyage officially begins. But, as it turns out, the biggest ship ever built at Meyerberg is 2 times
Ayan, may red bus na kayo.
shipbuilding power. The new mega cruiser Norwegian Breakaway has just started, but her owners hope will be 4 or 5 decades of service at sea. Tickets for her maiden voyage were hot sellers 18 months before she was even built.
Wala lang, joke lang. Blue muna.
The German shipyard Meyerberg was racing to build its largest ship on its shortest schedule ever.
Words, BR side. Hoy, words, BR side. Huwag kang ano dyan.
To build this complex.
And broken hearted. Because it's
And on a ship this big. a secret weapon on their side.
Ay, nako po.
High-speed computerized laser welders.
Yeah, three or maybe 4 times faster. Forget
Ay, sayang.
Herman Lindbeck supervises the welding team.
The cases buses are to reduce just 5 seconds
Sayang naman nito. Kaya ba to?
from that 25 seconds. It was not possible if we are using only for this.
Bibilisan lang.
The laser welder also allows the builders to use thinner steel, reducing the overall rate of
Nasaan ba yung Vi? Hindi ko nakikita yung Vi.
panels become sections, and sections become gigantic blocks. Like it is,
Nakakaiyak yung Swain.
the size of mansions
Oh, magsulo ka dyan.
at a static level. Each 200 tons leaves the welding shop and is literally flipped into position.
This turning device is a special machine for the 30 by 30 meter wide pellets. And then you move it to the block building stage, and there we build the block out of this section.
Nasisira na yung base namin.
Before the sparing steel, there is no
Oh shit.
obstacle.
And now I died.
4 engines into the hull, each one weighing 200 tons. This pivotal event brings out the project supervisor Christopher Carlson, naval architect Mark Koidman,
Shut
and
up.
captain.
Yan na, wag na natin tawagin useless. Hello, gogo. Ayun na.
Soy is the youngest captain in Norwegian's fleet. The company has
Tingnan mo kasi yung ano.
staff that had him oversee the entire build.
Nakakaputang ina talaga. Napatay na yun, patay na yan. Ayan. Imagine kung nagsasama lang kami ni Yaso, tapos yung Swain nag-a-assist din ng skill. O diba? Ang sakit ng Yaso, promise. Pero wala eh. Nasisira na yung base namin sa kagaguhan namin. Walang teamwork. Walang connection. Walang chemistry. Nakasol na tuloy yung kalaban. Huwag ka dyan. Gago. Gusto niyo ba ako na lang mag-push? Okay, go! Walang kwenta ba yung ano ko? Gago. Nagulat ako dun ah. Binantayan pala ako. Mabilis naman yung react ko, nag-ult agad ako pero hindi kinaya. Walang kwenta. Yung lifestyle ng ano niya. Tatlo pala patay sa amin. Apat na. Apat na yung patay. Wala na, GG. Nice, may GA pa, may GA pa. Na-delete agad eh. Wala na, GG.
Tuwing mag-uumpisa, kung siya alam ko pinagpukulong hanggang 2019, kasama si Bong Roman. 2022, kasama ng buong GP ng Takasi. Ngayon naman po 2025. Lagi po kami dito sa Mega Market nag-uumpisa. Maraming salamat sa mga kasama natin dito.
Bullshit. 3 lose, 1 win. And I think we're gonna get demoted this time. I don't know. Sana hindi. Kaumay naman. Oh. 0 points na. Okay. Ayoko na. Bukas naman. 13 win, 24 lose. Gago. Ano to? Anong win rate to? Yung win rate ko before nung peak era ko pa nung prime ko pa 56, 59 ganun. Ngayon 13 wins, 24 lose sa rank game. Oh my god. Kailan kaya babalik yung ano ko? Oh, feeling magaling. Kailan babalik? Pero I will still try, diba? Wala namang mawawala. Stress lang, gago. Tangina. Masakit yung dibdib ko. Bukas naman. Ayoko na. Apat na nag-game. Matutulog na lang ako. Wala na, ayoko na. Ikaw naman, Elmonok. Matutulog na, masakit yung dibdib. Lasing ka na nga, masakit pa yung dibdib mo. From 43 LP to 0 in just one night. Ayoko. Okay. Elmonok, thank you for the follow, tsaka sa pagtama sa stream ko, tsaka to the other stream. Just watch my stream. Have a good more night. Okay, matutulog na tayo. Wala tayong magagawa. 3-1. Bye-bye. I'll see you again on my next stream. Elmonok, if available ka, diba? If makapagtamay ka ulit sa stream ko. Ingat. Thank you. Goodbye.